This is an Alternerd reality podcast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Alternate Reality Podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things nerdy, pop culture-y, gamey, all things fun, basically, is where we're at. I'm your host, Chewburger84, and joining me is the Hebrew Hammer.
What is up, guys?
And we have Piker back again. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about you, fellas?
Pretty good for me.
Pretty rocking. And I believe that you fixed the microphone. You've removed it from your butthole this week so people can hear you properly, Piker. Is that how it works?
Oh, absolutely. I hope I'm coming through velvety smooth and your ears are having the pleasure of this amazing sound.
Sounds sexy.
It's like that episode of Scrubs where the person is using a oral tablet as a suppository and Turk's just saying, sir, it works best when you have it on the outside. So that's exactly what happened with Piker's microphone last week, I believe.
Yep. You have such a good memory. I could not have even recalled that. Congratulations.
I think you underestimate how many times I've rewatched Scrubs. I love that show.
How many?
Oh, dude, from start to finish. And by finish, I don't count that last piece of crap medical school season that they added. We don't.
Continuation.
That doesn't exist,
no.
Right? Oh, man, I'd say at least a dozen. Like, full through. Are you talking about, like, jump in, jump out episodes where I just feel like, you know, the comfort food of TV, where I just like, need me some Scrubs today, you know?
So is that,
like
that's
hundreds.
That's that show for you then, right? That
I mean,
show?
I have a few, but that's definitely one of them. Yeah, I mean, because for me, it reminds me of, like, I moved out of home and I did what a lot of people did my age, which, like, I was living with 5 mates under one roof. It was madness, chaos, all the fun stuff. But my mate introduced me to the show. So, you know, I'd be, you know, ironing all my stuff for the week, or let's say month, because let's face it, you know, that's how often I was doing a full wash and iron as a uni student. And yeah, I was just sitting there watching, like binge watching that and like House, and I can't remember what was out at that time, but like binge watching them on like DVD as well. That's how old school that was, like pre-streaming. Yeah, man. Scrubs is just one of those shows for me that I think is just
a great
rewatchable.
Show. I really like that show. I remember watching it a couple times. I don't think I can keep pace with Chew and his 12 rewatches, but I've seen it like probably twice all the way through.
It's such a good show, dude.
Mine is Himium and New Girl. Himium and New Girl I've watched at least, I want to say 7 times a pop.
I've seen that acronym for How I Met Your Mother. I've never heard anyone go Himium. I just thought you were just like baby talking for a second there. Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
How I Met Your Mother.
Himium. Did you think he was having some sort of a stroke, Piker?
Yeah, I definitely did. Like, let's give him some medical attention.
Exactly.
You really haven't heard it referred to like that before?
I've seen it written down.
No,
it's like someone saying "lol" out loud when they laugh. That's what you've just done.
How I Met Your Mother is just too long to say. Himium is so much easier.
Himium. All right. If anyone hears this going Himium, we don't have
Did
some
you have
sort
to
of
practice
disorder.
That? Himium. I don't think so. Himium.
I don't know. Yeah. So this is now the Scrubs and Himium podcast, guys. We're just changing the format from now on.
Yep.
So look, thank you very much to everyone who listened to the first episode. Obviously, being a brand new podcast, it is tough to get these things up and running, and we appreciate the support and the incredible feedback that a lot of you have shown on Discord. But folks, if you do enjoy what you're going to hear today, we really do need your help. So first of all, if you've got nerdy friends out there, make sure you point them in the direction of this podcast. If you want to go out of your way and help us, you can head on over to Apple Podcasts now that we are officially live up there in record time to Hebrew. How many times have we launched podcasts and it's like 3 weeks before it goes live?
Yeah, I think that out of like the 7 that we've done, I want to say like 4 or 5 of them. One of them especially was like a 3-weeker or so. So yeah, this was
real that quick. Porn of politics? Because I mean, fair enough, I'd say. Did you say they loved it?
Yeah, no, that one took the longest time. But yeah, they must have really loved this whenever they listened to it. So they were like, accepted, boom.
Absolutely. But look, you guys can help other people find this podcast by giving us a rating over on iTunes. If you do give us a 5-star review and you leave a text for it, we will read it out on next week's episode. And thank you to those of you that did that this week. So let's go through a couple of those because we will read them out live on air. So to Pippin44, he said, I followed these guys from their pods from MSF. Glad to hear they're back and doing what they love. Look forward to future episodes. We also had Bear2444. Great conversation to be had. All are your favorite topics. Long live Chewburger84. I mean, I don't know. This sounds like a random, like, this guy's name is basically Himium. So to GHIKVXD. He says, do you love all things nerdy and fun? Well, this is the podcast for you. The witty banter and fresh perspectives will keep you listening nonstop. Look forward to hearing more of Salty Chew. Wish I could post something about a 7 Red Star in here. That's from Tsunami. So the Salty Chew character I plan on killing off. That was an MSF exclusive. I'm trying to limit that character because it's no good for my arm.
We still need, what was it, Decimal Jeff? That was the other big one from MLO?
Well, Decimal Point Jeff is going to feature pretty heavily, I'm sure, in what we've been playing this week. Don't you worry about that. That guy's had a spectacular week. Then we have David Livingston, who said, found these guys from Marvel Strikeforce, really enjoyed Hebrew Hammer on the Ravager Report, and somehow directed to Chewie and Roy on the Masters of Launch pod. Recently heard Piker on Masters of Launch. All three are good dudes whose personalities mix well, and this will be a fun podcast. P.S. If Big Roy doesn't join as a guest, we will riot. And then Talon branding it out, saying, I followed you guys through a bunch of projects like Diceman, Masters and Launch. So glad you're making content. Look forward to what's to come. Are you guys going to be taking suggestions of new flavors of geekiness to sample? Now, that's something that I think, yes, we've been very sort of interactive on previous pods, and that's probably been our most favorite thing. So definitely join the Discord, folks, over at discord.me/ANR, as in Alternerd Reality, because, we're going to be looking at things like taking questions or maybe emails on the podcast in the very near future, once we just basically nail down the format. And finally, folks, if you want to make sure this podcast gets to be the best it can possibly be, you can head on to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/ANRpod. We're going to be reading out all of our Patreon subscribers starting out from October the 1st, just because we're transitioning that page from a previous podcast to the new one. I think that's going to end all the shameless plugs for today, boys. What do you think?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, that was some serious plugging.
Yeah, that's always the worst part of podcasting is like, you're like, I hate doing this, but I have to.
Yeah, well, we're going to move a lot of those things to the end of the podcast in the future as well. That way we can take more time to do it and do the shout outs to our patrons and that sort of thing without frustrating people going, I'm not going to listen to 50 names being read out. God.
Everyone appreciates plugging in the end.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that about you. I mean, your wife sent me photos. So,
hey.
You got some explaining to do. Discretion. What is that? I don't understand that term.
Yeah.
Now, what's going on with you boys in the US? You've got guys flying around in jetpacks at LAX. What the hell is happening in the States?
I have no idea what that was about. I woke up and I went on Reddit, per usual, and I was sitting there and it was like 2 reports from pilots saying that there was a jetpack flying around at LAX. I was like, what in the world is happening today? So, yeah, apparently that's like a thing now. Someone was flying around up there.
That's what happens when you lock people in their house for 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah. They find a way to get way out, I guess.
I just love the imaging on this. Like, there's like a guy flying like a freaking 747, and then like this bloke just basically casually just strolls past him on a jetpack. Just gives him the little like, you right, Jeff? You know? It's so hilarious. But I just love the fact that like money and technology are just merging for some of the most ridiculous things you can do now. And just casually flying past an airplane in a no-fly zone in a jetpack is probably the most baller nerd move I've ever heard of. I think it's fantastic.
I am like betting money that in like a month, we're going to see a YouTube video pop up from someone's channel where they're like, dude, I took my jetpack out today, rubbed it.
Can you imagine the audio on that? Can you imagine trying to record audio like flying in a jetpack past a plane? It's just going to sound like this. There's going to be just so much. I would watch the crap out of that, though. Like, this guy getting buzzed.
Oh,
just like flipping off the pilots as they go by on their planes and stuff. Yeah.
Well, did you guys ever watch that movie Chronicle?
Yeah.
No, I've never seen Chronicle.
The superhero one?
Yeah, that's right. It's like a shaky cam kind of Blair Witchy found footage type thing, but with these kids that get exposed to some kind of like alien device that gives them superpowers that evolves over time. And one of the first things they do, of course, is they figure out how to fly and fly up in the clouds. And one of them dies because they get hit by a plane. So, I mean, and the way that they do that just shows you that like flying without the ability to detect where planes might be coming from sounds like a terrible idea without like protection.
Yeah. I'm also like very confused as to how we didn't find them. Like I always think that like,
I know.
The government can find you like that if they want to. But then again, there's a guy flying around in like airspace that he can't be flying around in, and they couldn't find him. They were like, all right, well, whatever. This guy has a jetpack and he's flying around in the air somewhere. I was surprised by that. I would.
With so many flights being grounded and whatnot, I suppose that like the air control guys are probably, got the feet up on the desk, reading coffee, like, very stereotypical of all those 80s, 90s action movies where,
Right.
the hero's like sneaking into a building and you can see them on the cam, but old mate's distracted with coffee and a donut. That seems to be what air traffic control is in 2020.
Yeah, and then of course you have the classic scene where they come flying by the air traffic tower, and then they spit out their coffee, and they're like, "Whoa, what was that?"
That's it.
So I'm very much looking forward to that YouTube footage when it comes out. I can guarantee it's going to happen.
I know. I'm disappointed that you didn't do the full quote there with, that's a negative ghostwriter. The patent is full.
Wait, what is that from?
What?
Oh my God.
Oh God! Wait, what's happening right now? What is that from?
Oh my
so those
God.
have enjoyed.
Is it Top Gun? Wait. Top Gun?
Is it Top Gun?
Is
Fuck
it
you.
Top Gun?
Oh, some days I hate you so much. Oh my God.
Wait. I still don't know. Is it Top Gun?
It is. Of course,
It
it's
is Top Gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're talking about a flyby movie, you literally just quoted the scene from Top Gun, and then. Oh my God! It's like
be
Peter
fair, that
Parker
scene's in,
saying,
like,
"Hey, do you guys remember that old movie, Star Wars?" So you sound like
You say that, but that movie is very old to me. So
Jesus Christ.
I mean, Top Gun I've only seen like once. So
That was my first favorite movie.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. I'm trying to think what my first favorite
solid movie,
was.
but
I think as a kid, the first movie that I remember watching on repeat, and I don't think this was supposed to really be a kid's movie, was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, that I remember. Yeah, that was a solid movie. That's an interesting favorite choice, though.
Yeah, I mean, I was a weird kid that's led to grow up into a weird adult. But yeah.
Yeah, that tracks for me.
Yeah.
my
sounds
dad
about
showed
right.
me that, and I thought the animation was so bad that I had to turn it off. I was like, I'm not watching this.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
But
Speaking
from
of terrible.
a different time.
From a different time, indeed. Speaking of terrible things, obviously it was devastating news this week that the Black Panther himself, Chadwick Boseman, has unfortunately passed away of cancer. I can't believe this guy has been fighting this for such a long time through, things like Endgame and Infinity War, and so few of us, knew as fans, I guess. It's heartbreaking this has happened.
Just devastating.
Yeah. So, I mean, we looked, my buddy Sean and I looked this up the other day when we were talking about it, and pretty much, like, I guess he was diagnosed with it just, like, either just after, not Civil War, the first one where he showed up. What was that one?
Civil War, yeah.
Civil War.
No, that wasn't Civil War. Winter Soldier. He was in Winter Soldier. That's where he first made his appearance. Right?
Are
No.
you sure about that? I'm pretty sure it was Civil War. Civil War, then Wakanda, then the other two. Yeah, Winter Soldier was the one where he was actually finding Bucky in the end. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe you're right. I can't think. Winter Soldier. That was more like
I'm
the
actually
Shield,
looking it
the
up
Shield
right
spy
now.
movie. Yeah. But
I just watched this as a tribute.
Oh, did
Yeah,
you? Right.
it was Civil War. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was amazing in it. And,
I'm still thinking no, but all right.
All right, well, you think and Google that while we talk about a legend. So, I mean, to be part of such a massive movie and, like, to have so many milestones attached to Black Panther especially. And, yeah, man, it's a real loss. And the guy was talented as all get out. But, I mean, what do they do now at Marvel? Like, are they going to replace that? Like, what happens with Black Panther 2? I've seen a lot of fan petitions, and I think I'm kind of on board with this, is that the comic book run pivoted that when the Black Panther died, that Shuri actually stepped up to the plate as like a super tech genius version of Black Panther, which I have to say, I think rather than recast the same guy, like recast T'Challa, I think that's the way I'd love to see it go.
I didn't realize they did that in the comics, but that's like kind of what I was hoping that they would do, is pivot to Shuri and kind of tell, that story rather than recasting somebody so iconic in that role or, trying to sell the audience on a new Black Panther.
Well, they have done it twice in the MCU.
They have?
Yeah, Rhodey.
They've done that twice, you
was
said?
not. Rhodey was not Don Cheadle the first time around. It was a guy whose name I can never remember, but he quit over a pay dispute because he wanted to be paid more than Robert Downey Jr., to which I say, bruh, do you really think he deserved more than RDJ with that?
That's a surprising move. That is a
mistakes
big
were made.
Right there.
Well, he sort of made it sound like he did the favor to Downey Jr. Of like getting him in. It's like, you should call this guy because he thought he was the bigger name at the time. Which I guess, given Downey Jr.'s history before that, maybe it's true.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it was the role he was born to play. You know, I mean, he is Iron Man for me now and forever. And the second one, of course, even bigger than this, is Edward Norton. Edward Norton was supposed to be the Incredible Hulk for the MCU. Did the first movie, apparently was a giant dickhole in the process. And got fired or quit. I don't know which way it ended up panning out. And then we got, thank Christ, Ruffalo. So they have recast members of the MCU before.
Yeah. I mean, is there, I don't know how much you know about the comic book, but they probably have the mantle of Black Panther transfer a couple of times, right? Or is it just to Shuri?
No, it has been passed before. I mean, obviously, we've already seen that transition happen once because the original Black Panther was his dad. They've gone through that sort of storyline in the movies already. So we know that that's a thing that's happened. But how they do it this time with an off-screen death, like how they explain that away, I really hope they don't do terrible CGI legacy stuff. I don't think it's a time to do that yet. Like, if it's been like 30 years, like a Carrie Fisher situation, sure, completely understood. But I don't want to see that here. I've seen a lot of people sort of say, like, to honor his passing, that they should have him sort of die, off screen because of cancer or something like that, to kind of really build that message that cancer does affect us all. And I think it's a good idea.
That's interesting.
And then pass that to Shuri.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I really like Shuri, like how she is as a character. So I like almost don't want her to become that because I actually really enjoy her character as is. But if that's part of the storyline, then like I can't fault them for doing that because that's how they have it in Marvel. But I would not be opposed to them like passing the mantle again, doing that kind of pass off like you said, where they actually do it off screen as like a cancer death or something, and then they end up just passing it over to a new character.
Yeah. I mean, it could go either way, right? But it'd be an interesting time for Disney because you can't plan for these kind of things. It's just terrible, untimely.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm actually surprised that Disney brought him on with that in the first place. Well, I guess when he probably already signed his contract before he was diagnosed, so that's probably why. And then they couldn't. Yeah,
well, I think a lot of them probably just assumed that he'd get through it because cancer treatment's better than it's ever been, and his age being such a strong young guy, you're like if anyone's got a chance of beating it, it's this guy. And in 4 years, it's taken him from this world, so it's terrible, man. It really is. So yeah, if you or anyone had anyone affected by cancer, thoughts with you guys. It's crazy, just terrible.
Yeah,
get yourself checked too.
Yeah, I was gonna say PSA.
Yeah.
Get your holes checked.
I was immediately like, whenever I read this, I was like, I need to get checked now because if it happened to him, I definitely need to get checked.
It's a bloody good point, actually. Yeah. But look, I don't think we want to dwell too much on that much of a downer. We've got some really exciting things to talk about today. So guys, it is my first Father's Day coming up this Sunday. And so we've kept the child alive for a year, so that's good.
Congratulations.
Tick box number one.
Yes.
So my wife bought me my first ever Father's Day present, which I don't know how to feel about it because, guys, she bought me a severed head is the story.
Obviously, there's more to that story.
There is. It's actually quite awesome. So she bought me a Deadpool head. So it's basically a cut-off Deadpool head that is fully like animatronic, like it moves by itself. It's app controlled, and basically he just sits there on the shelf behind me and just talks shit.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. You have to make a video of that or something.
Yes.
I have to see that in action.
I was going to do an unboxing, but then I was like, Well, an unboxing is things where like normally like alternate reality will buy the kit for us, and it didn't feel right to kind of do that, and then it becomes a work expense. You know what I mean? I didn't want to cheapen the gift, so this is one that I was like, no, that's just for me. But I've left it on the streams. So I'm playing Avengers a lot over the last couple of days, which I know we're going to talk about in a sec.
How have I not seen that? Because I was watching that the other day. Okay,
it's awesome, dude. Yeah, so it's made by Hasbro. It's a great little piece of kit. It's a hell of a lot of fun. And so a couple times I'd have the app open next to me on stream, and like on the loading scenes in the Avengers where it gets real quiet, I just like push a button, and then of course the head starts moving and talking behind me, and then you hear like a comment in chat going, "What the hell, man? Did that head just move?" And it's like, yeah, that's pretty fun. So great. Then it's got like things built in the app like fridge prank. So you can like put it in the fridge and then set it up in a way that basically it goes off if someone opens the fridge. So there's all sorts of really fun stuff you can do.
And it says stuff to you?
Yeah, so it has a ton of phrasing. If I have one criticism of it, and I understand that this is probably like a teenager's toy for many people's view, is that it filters out the swearing of the Deadpool. So it actually it bleeps itself. And I was like, man. You can record yourself doing it, so maybe I start working on my Ryan Reynolds impression and just start getting some truly horrendous things for him to say.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically pass off as a like Ryan Reynolds after retirement anyways, so that's fine.
Oh, God. I mean, years deep. No, Ryan Reynolds is a rig, man. That's a handsome lad. That's too much to aspire to. I can't handle that.
Everyone is jealous of how Ryan Reynolds looks, yeah.
Mate, I think that kid was born with abs and a dick root. Do you know what I mean? Like, that guy is just fierce.
The only thing is that he's always says he's like super, super insecure. I'm not sure if that's him playing nice guy, like, oh, I'm insecure about the way I look, or if he actually has insecurity issues. But man, if he has insecurity issues, we're all fucked.
Oh, 100%.
Well, I mean, maybe that's his engine. Maybe that's what drives him to work out so much. I mean, I don't know. Whatever it is, whatever motivation he has, I want it. Yeah, and genetics. And genetics. I'll take that too.
Well, and now he's rich as hell. Did you see he sold his gin company for like
I did
a ton of money?
Really?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That dude's loaded now.
Man, I saw him always promoting the hell out of it, but yeah, I didn't know that he sold it for anything.
He sold it to the same company that bought Clooney's Tequila.
Jesus.
Oh, right. Well, that's bad timing for that company because now The Rock's come out with that Tiamat or whatever it's called, which is just crushing it out there. Like, people are buying it and uploading all these videos on Insta and whatnot. Then The Rock's like resharing those videos to millions of people, so that makes more people want to like self-promote. So, I mean, he's done that very well. Old Dwayne Johnson. So, but it's amazing how many of these actors that are positioned into like super wealthy like magnates because they've invested in the right things. Like Ashton Kutcher, oh my God, I can't think of the word. Infamously, he's a big tech investor. Like he was investing in a lot of startups, and he's been cashing it on that big time for a while now too. So.
Dude, Jack Black YouTube. I mean, like if that's was it Kevin James also? Like they've cashed in hard on YouTube. They're making
Kevin James as in the King of Queens. Kevin James.
Yeah, he has a huge one. He has Sound Guy. It's like a series that he does where he puts himself into famous scenes and he pretends like he's the sound guy, and then he has like the other person talking to him.
Oh, okay. I've seen one of these things before. Okay, I didn't realize that was a whole
super
series.
Viral. Yeah.
Interesting. I have to check that out.
Yeah, both of them had cashed in on that hard. They make a ridiculous amount of money from that. So.
Good times. All right, let's get into the first segment of the show, which is, of course, what have we been playing this week? So, Piker, let's start out with you. How is Tony Hawk? I know that you've been picking up a little bit of that demo since the last episode.
Amazing. It's been so much fun. Just playing the demo, like the warehouse level is all you can do at the moment, but just being able to have fun and sit down and turn your brain off for a while and just skate that demo has been so much fun. Of course, my OCD kicked in and I have to, start nailing tricks and combos, and 2 hours go by and I'm still trying to do the same bloody run that I started. But I was proud of myself. I got a single straight solid combo of about 71,000 points, which if you play the game, that is respectable. I feel good. I can sleep well at night now, knowing that, an old man still has it a little bit, but it's been fantastic. I believe the full game drops tomorrow. I'm so excited.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what's the sickest trick you've pulled off, bro?
I'm not going to do it justice, but in the demo, what I was doing is starting off with a manual into a kickflip, landing manual, grind onto the rail, land manual, grind along the half pipe in wall plant, another grind, manual, kickflip. And that was about 71,000 points.
So listening to that
Wow.
basically sounds like someone going through a move list for a stripper at a strip club. Do you know
That's
what I mean?
where I got the inspiration
grind
from.
into a wall plant. Yeah.
A lot
That's
of
pretty
grinding.
fantastic. Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
how
you
you
just
earn the
gotta-
money. That's how you score the big points in Strip Club Simulator 2020.
Yeah,
There you
the
go.
key is
Ooh,
just
good
knowing
game
when to
idea.
pull out at the right time.
Oh, that game's existed for a while. It's called GTA 5.
But no, that yeah, I really miss Tony Hawk. Like, I'm excited. I haven't got the demo still, but I am gonna get the game because, man, I don't know if I would be embarrassed or really proud of myself for how many hours if I had a clock that told me how many hours I put into the original on Nintendo. Because my God, it must have been
like,
so many.
The most amazing thing was from the first run, just picking up the controller, like hitting the buttons, the muscle memory. It came back immediately. And that, like, it just put a smile on your face. Like, that moment for me, personally, was just like, oh, this just feels freaking good. And I loved that. That was great.
It's probably also weird that it was like, at the time, it was like totally isolated from like multiplayer systems. If I remember correctly, like there wasn't any multiplayer or anything like that for
No,
any Nintendo
not at
game
all.
from
What
I
was the
remember.
original multiplayer of you grab the controller, give it to the dude sitting
Yeah.
next to you, and take turns?
Oh
The-
yeah, that's
the
right. You had to
OG.
have friends there for your multiplayer.
Yeah. Do you remember that when you used
Yeah,
to have
that-
like friends
that was a
in your
weird one.
house pre 2020?
Yeah.
What a time! What a time, guys!
Germs.
But yeah, so I mean, like having that isolation, because I assume it's the same. Like they kept true to that. I'm sure there's no multiplayer system.
No, there is a full online multiplayer component
is.
now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that, like, I'm not sure if I like that or not, because I feel like it kind of takes away from the charm of the original.
And how does that work? Is it just like other people on the ramp with you, or is it just like guy number one's turn and then guy
Probably
number two, you're
Probably
up?
score
No,
competing.
I think you'll be able to live skate the same map at the same time, like with your buddies.
But you won't see them on the same screen as you.
I think that you will. I mean, I obviously haven't been able to play it yet because it's not released yet, but I remember with a lot, like some of the later Tony Hawks, I believe you would do like some online multiplayer, like racing versions, and you could like skate through the other person. So like you could be on the same
Right.
map doing tricks and you wouldn't interfere with each other.
Yeah, it was.
So
like
that was
Ghost
my big
version.
question: is that was there going to be like body collision systems? Because if I played that game, like, because I don't have the same attachment that you guys do to it, that's all I would be doing. It's just like, can I knock you into
Trying
the
to
hedge?
fuck other
Do you
people.
know what I mean?
You would
You
be so
would.
toxic, dude.
Oh, bruh.
People would yell at you.
Oh yeah, that's all I would do, because like I live back to games like Road Rash. I don't know if you guys remember that from like the Mega Drive years,
no
or
idea.
Genesis. As
I
it was
remember
called
that
in the
game.
US. Yeah, it was basically you on a motorbike,
Yep.
Hebrew, where you had like you could pick up like baseball bats and chains, and you'd upgrade the bike so it goes faster, but then you'd upgrade your weapons as well. So like when people would ride up next to you, just beat the Christ out of them until they fell off their bike. So if they made Tony Hawk / Road Rash, I'd be on board.
Well, they might do it, so you might be on board for it then.
Absolutely. So how authentic does this feel to the original thing, Piker? Is it something where it's like a true remaster, that they've just basically taken everything that was great about that game and brushed it up with a couple of cleanups? Or have they gone more of a remake? Like, have they added a bunch of stuff that it was like, okay, this does improve it, or it does take me away? Where's it at?
It's a true remaster. So it has everything from the original two games that you remember, from the characters to the music to the locations. So they kept it extremely true, which is exactly what I would want from this game. There's been, plenty of Tony Hawks that have done new locations from, Tony Hawk Underground that you can get, new places to go to. This was a update to the original game. And they nailed it. I mean, from the feel of it, from the graphics on it have been fantastic. It looks amazing. I'm going to have some fun with photo mode in this game for sure, because, gotta love that. But yeah, it's definitely a remaster, and it's felt fantastic.
I assume it's playable on PS5 too.
It will be, yes.
Okay, good.
You got to try it,
yeah,
too.
coming out PS4, yeah. Oh, look, I'll try it on PS5. I mean, now's a bad time to tell me to play video games because, like, the amount of stuff that's coming out over the next 3 months, thanks to the COVID delays from this year, it is a just chock-full experience. And there's so many games in my back catalog anyway that it's a rough time out there. And Tony Hawk is probably not my number one to loop back to. Yeah. But I'll get there. I'll get there for sure. Now, curiously, I mean, in 2020, obviously, microtransactions is the name of the game, sadly. Have they got like a store or anything like that? I'm assuming with like all sorts of costumes and stuff for real money, or they left it completely just everything's unlockable?
So that's a good question. I know that you can earn like in-game currency. Like every time you complete like your run, you get a little bit of like in-game currency that you can, I believe, use to unlock new boards, wheels and, t-shirts and stuff for your character if you went like the custom route. But I don't know if it's a situation where you can like drop real money to buy a whole bunch of stuff. And it's definitely not, at least historically, Tony Hawk hasn't been a game where you can spend money to improve your stats more quickly.
Yeah, right. That'd be curious. I hope it's not progressing your stats, but I guess a single player game, maybe it's not that big a deal. I mean, they did this with things like Shadow of War, the latest Lord of the Rings game a while back, where it was like, well, you could buy all these crates for a single player to like really speed up your progress. And most of us were like, who cares? I can just grind that for free with the hours of the game I'd play anyway. So, yeah, cool. Now, Marvel Strike Force, you're obviously still playing. You're the only one of us that still is. They've had a week, bro.
Oh,
the biggest week.
Part of me feels like I want to buy like the CMs a beer because they've had a week. This has got to be tough.
Now, tell me it's true. I heard a rumor that when all this blew up, which you're about to tell the story now, that the head of community management was actually on vacation.
So I know that the end of that week, he was looking at taking some days off. I don't know if he was like on the beach with his legs up whenever the shit hit the fan or not. But I know on the weekend, especially a Sunday, they do have some people that tend to work on Saturdays in the office, or I guess at home now. They're usually, you can find somebody on a Saturday. On a Sunday, things are pretty quiet. So they were definitely kicking someone's door down, Sunday morning, trying to get this addressed before, a whole other continent got 3,000 orbs in their inbox.
Right. So to put that in perspective, what Pike is talking about is that this is probably one of the heaviest microtransaction games. You can't even call them microtransactions. They're macro. They're so over the top, ridiculously expensive, predatory gambling mechanics that Scopely has made. I prefer to still say Fox Next because realistically they're running their own show within Scopely, right? But they bought them, so I guess the name's dead, so we have to say Scopely. Basically, to open one of these orbs, you normally have to open 2,000 fragments. So a daily free login calendar, every player logs in. For this one day, they're supposed to get 3,000 fragments. And instead, they were given 3,000 full orbs for everyone that logged in probably the first like 6 or 7 hours. So to show you how ridiculous their in-game monetization is, we did some rough maths on this, Piker, and worked out that if you went by their numbers to every player that successfully did this, they gave away somewhere between 30 and 60,000 US dollars worth of quote unquote free shit.
Right.
Which is amazing.
That is amazingly like crazy that was put through and not checked. I have no idea what's going on there. That place has always been a shit show though, so it doesn't surprise me too much.
Man, I can't believe they've been left to their own devices for this long, even the new company. But now they've made the decision, Piker, that they're going to roll it all back. Is that right?
Yeah, so the rollback went into effect today. The game went down for maintenance for probably 2 hours. And during that time, they rolled back those affected. Now, I don't know how well the rollback has gone. I've heard some conflicting reports. I've heard some people have had some things removed from their account more than just the gear they got. They had character shards removed that shouldn't have been removed. I've heard that some people have the gear still, that the gear wasn't removed from their account.
Oh God.
So there's a lot of player IDs getting swapped around and things getting looked at behind the scenes. There was a 0% chance that this was going to be remedied completely by the studio. There was just no way that they were going to be able to clean all of this up. There's going to be people that fall through the cracks that either get screwed or get super lucky. It was that big of a cluster that there's going to be fallout for a very long time.
And like we mentioned the other day, or I mentioned to you guys the other day, I think like the worst case scenario for me, just because I do remember I was around during Red Stars and everything like that, but getting like a 7 Red Star is still an incredibly coveted thing. Like you only have 2. I don't think you ever got 1, right?
No, I finished 881 days played when I quit and did not pull a single one of those.
It's a bitter subject. He doesn't like to talk about it.
Yeah, and
it contributed to me leaving for sure, because you couldn't progress your own character unless you gambled and won, right? And I just chose by the end just not to gamble. That was the reality of it. I refused to purchase those things.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I got 1, luckily, for Scientist Supreme a little bit before I quit, but if you finally pulled your 7-star during this rollback time, I can't imagine how absolutely pissed you'd be if they rolled it back. I would straight up quit the game, no questions asked, there. There'd be no way. So it's just and that's just like, that's worst case scenario. There's going to be other things that people got that were still amazing and very rare that is now screwed because of this. So like, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen for a game. Like, the biggest mobile blunder I think that's ever been made, probably.
I mean, if you talk about it monetarily, on paper, it would have been, yeah. But this is the thing, is like a normal company of that size. Remember, in their first year, they made $150 million US, right? So to have that kind of money and still have absolutely no quality assurance team, because they have bugs every patch, and I mean like, terrible bugs. There's the Black Bolt bug has been around for, I think, however long that character's been. What is it now, Parker? Like 9 months or something?
Easily.
Longer?
Yep.
And they can't fix it, allegedly. They don't know how, right?
Yeah.
There's so much about the game that's just busted with these guys. But any other company that would make that kind of profit, if you can't turn a rollback around in 24 hours or less than, when you have made a momentous fuck up like that, what are you doing? Like, they're just pocketing the money and not reinvesting at all. There's so many mobile developers that are doing this now, where they're basically got the attitude of, let's fleece the player base as much as we can in as short a time as we can, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So many of these games, they say that they're in it for the long haul, but they're not reinvesting in it. Like, it doesn't sound like they've expanded their team. It doesn't sound like they're dedicating into, expanding features for people. It's just an absolute joke, mate. And it would have avoided so much, because if you rolled it back within hours of it happening and just sent out a little bit of compensation to everyone saying, look, guys, game has to come down for about 4 hours. We're really sorry. We're going to roll back every single person's account, because you can't really do too much in, let's say, half a day in that game. There's some stuff. Right. Like if there's a war on or whatever, you just compensate people for the war that was on, whatever. But to have it go like 5-6 days and then say, now we're going to roll back to the save state before that for only some players, which means that if you took away all the daily login currency, at least all the free stuff that you would have got in that period of time to that pre-save state, that's actually people who got this theoretical advantage have now been screwed. So it's just more and more for me why a lot of these mobile game companies are just pieces of shit. They really are. I'm not saying this about Scopely as a whole, but I will say it about Fox next. Just everything we hear about the guys at the top, they could give a fuck about the player's experience or value for money or customer brand loyalty. They're just, we're going to take the money from you, eat a dick. That's end of sentence.
Well, I did have a magic moment, and I don't even think I told you about this, Chew, about a little bit of backstory. I'm an envoy, so I have some direct access with the community manager team at Scopely. And about a week and a half before, Orbigeddon occurred, I suggested to them that perhaps they consider using the test server that they already have set up to actually put these updates through on that the envoys have access to, so we can act as like a brief sort of quality control check, just like real quick. Just, use this little thing that's already in place to make sure these massive bugs stop coming into the game. And the CMs took that feedback, which was awesome, and took it to the dev team and literally came back and said, it's too much work right now for us to do that.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But
and then
that's
a
what
week
a test
later,
server's for.
Yeah.
I don't even understand that. Yeah, okay.
Well, their test server, all they do is basically all the features that are going to make them more money. They basically invite all the senior spenders, like all the Krakens, into it and then basically go, does this feel like something you guys would spend money on? That's literally what they do with those test servers.
Christ, dude. That's
100%. That's what happens. Like those guys, like Pike is an official envoy, right? Mm-hmm. And he signed an NDA because, I had to when I was there as well, which I don't miss. And these guys, like, they're supposed to abide by the same rules, but they're leaky sieves, man. Like, we see on their Discord servers, those guys blatantly giving out information off the test server saying this character's coming, this is happening, this change is going to roll. Because, they've got a VIP program. I don't know if I told you guys this, but when I was at my peak of spending in this game, randomly one day I had a guy from MSF message me going, hey, my name's blah, blah. I work for them, and basically I'm the liaison for big spenders. In other words, they had a whale dedicated customer service content whose job was to try and keep you happy. That's what it was. And I remember some stages where like there'd be stuff ups and people were like, man, they're giving me nothing. There's no compensation. I'd message this guy and just say, hey man, what the hell? This is crap. And then all of a sudden, mine's rectified. I've got the shards that were missing or whatever. So they definitely do give advanced access to some of those people that spend stupid amounts of money, and everyone else can just, get nicked.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you can summarize this up pretty well by, just saying they kind of reap what they sowed in this situation. You don't prioritize testing. You don't, put proper measures in. You ignore suggestions that reduce bugs. What the hell do you work on a live server? You make game updates to the entire population of gamers on a live server. At some point, what the hell did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, I wonder if this will change their practice moving forward.
If this doesn't, absolutely nothing would.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like nearly 2 years ago on the podcast that we were doing for this, I invented a character called Decimal Point Jeff, who's become part of the lexicon of Marvel Strikeforce because of how many times they've done this, where they'll literally go, instead of 10, you're getting 1,000. They're just moving the decimal point in the wrong place. The fact that this is still happening and actively getting worse is insane to me. It's insane.
Yeah, as they get more and more revenue too, as you pointed out earlier. So
exactly.
They're making more money and they're getting even worse. So,
exactly. Jesus. So speaking of Marvel mobile games, you and I were playing a little bit of Realm of Champions towards the start of the week, but we backed off a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, like I expressed this to you yesterday, but I think the game has legs. I said that from the beginning. I still think it, but I am kind of disappointed with the beta right now because I just think that there are some huge issues with the game that I have been like begging the devs in their Discord to try to do something about, but they just won't address it, or they've addressed me or my comments, I should say, like twice, just like reminding me that it's a beta and blah blah blah. And I get that, but at the same time, like you want people to test your beta, like continue to test your beta, and there's such an easy answer for all these questions. Or these problems rather, that need to be fixed. And, one of them being a huge like power disparity in matchmaking right now, which I get, there's not a lot of people on the server, so you get mismatched, but they have bots in this game. Like they could easily fill in the power disparity with a bot that of in equal power to your opponent, which is like, going to be like in the 1K usually when you're sitting there with two 200s. But yeah, like, so they can easily do something like that, but they're just kind of ignoring that for now. So I enjoy the game. I can't wait for it to come out global whenever the beta's done. I'll hop back into the beta whenever those issues are fixed. But for right now, I kind of called it quits, or at least hit the pause button. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I do intend on playing a lot more of it, but obviously the last couple of days have been dedicated to Avengers, which will be the last part of this segment we'll talk about. But it's bad. Like the experience after that patch got way, way, way worse with matchmaking in that it's literally two speeds. It's you are losing a match in just the worst steamroll possible because it's you, two Leroy Jenkins bots that just go on suicide against the enemy base every time. Versus 3 pre-mades at 1.2k, or you are the pre-made at 1.2k, just ruffle stomping everyone. Exactly. I will say the couple of times that our pre-made met another pre-made, those matches were fun. But the surprising thing about that is the matches that were, 2 to 3 minutes long, when you get even matchups when people have gear and survivability, especially if they have like a Sorcerer Supreme with that elongated survival mechanic, like with shields and heals and whatnot, some of those matches were going out to like 9-10 minutes for me, because what had happened is that people were able to kite and survive so long in the middle, even when it became, quote, so small for the capture point, that the people were coming back on their 20-second res timer and then repeat, because then then the next teammate comes in and then it becomes this series of almost like one-on-ones. So those were fun. Yeah. I really did like that. So this game has a hell of a lot of potential. I'm sticking with it, but it isn't a frustrating play state at the moment. That's for sure. I played a little bit of Wasteland.
That matchmaking.
3. Oh, you are playing still? I didn't realize. Sorry, Parker.
No, that's okay. That I'm really not anymore. That matchmaking really pushed me out. Like, I tried to hang in there with it. Like, I really did. I just couldn't do it anymore. It was, you're playing 10 matches and you're losing before it even starts when you look at just the power differentials on the loading screen. And it's like, this is not fun. This doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and then insult to injury is that the gear drops are terrible. So like you have to play like, at least for me, it was consistently like 10 minimum games in order to get a slightly better piece of gear, where every single game is basically a loss, feels absolutely terrible.
Well, that's a beta problem though, because they do have a power cap at the moment. So I mean, you can't progress past the point that you are without getting rares, and you can't get rares from matches. So yeah, that's a problem that we know is only going to be temporary. I'm not too worried about that.
I'm just talking about the build up there though. I'm not even talking about rares at all. I'm just talking about getting up to like the point where you can start to even get rares. Like for all of my characters besides one, I'm still at the like just getting into 2-star uncommon area, and it feels terrible to climb up there.
Well, I get some bad news for you that climb is worse now since the patch, because what was happening before then is no, it's bad. So what you had scrap. So when you broke down an item, it basically gave you components, and then you had to use those components to upgrade the gear, which is fine. But then when you get to rares, for example, I think it's like 1,500 components or something to fully upgrade from nothing to max, right? What they did is when you scrap items now, Hebrew, you only get gold, and a very small amount of it, like 15. They remove components coming that way. The only way you can get components now is via matches. And to put it in perspective, I think you get something like 37 for a loss and 43 for a win. Meaning that if you need like 1,500, that's dozens of matches to upgrade one piece. And you and I both know that in many cases, like you need to upgrade sort of trash gear just to be able to hold on until you can get that slightly better gear and then hope for a rare, which then you upgrade that. So it actually discourages you actively from upgrading anything that's not like a perfectly rolled piece, which means that you kind of have to play well above your pay grade in the in-between, especially up against guys who have rare weapons whose damage is crazy. So that actually has got a little bit worse since the last patch too. So
so that sounds
I think
terrible.
and then they broke the co-op mode as well. That was offline for nearly a week with that patch. So look, it's early technical beta. These kind of things happen. I don't want to poop on it too much because I do think that game has potential. And they're actively listening and engaging. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Last week I said Wasteland 3 was one of my most anticipated games of the year. I got probably only about 5 or 6 hours into that game. The character creation was amazing. For those who haven't played it, it's very similar to Fallout 2, the old school, third-person overhead isometric, very sort of Baldur's Gate kind of graphics, but with turn-based combat. So the turn-based combat felt great. It definitely feels a little bit more XCOM-y now in the way they kind of want you to use cover a lot more. The older versions were just kind of like you're out in a battlefield, and it's very JRPG kind of ish, where you take your turn, they take theirs, and away you go. I don't hate it though. I think they've done a pretty good job with the way that cover system works. The weapon variety is great. The characters seem really fun. They've got a lot of those like really sort of quirky, dark humor that I guess you would have in the apocalypse, where everyone's a bit darker, grittier, and way too accustomed to death that they just make like the sickest jokes about it. And the opening sequence, like you're walking past a cliff face and there's all these like bodies literally have been hung out there, and then the guys up on top of the cliff are still murdering people, so they throw like a body off the cliff in front of you, and jokes are made about that. So it's got that really dark edge of humor that I loved in Fallout 2, and then when I came to the Wasteland series, love even more here. So I can't give too much a review because I'm miles away from the end. I have no doubt I'm going to start over again because the character creation is so fun because you can put things like perks. So perks are one of those things they introduced in Fallout 2. I can't remember what they call them here. I think they call them quirks, which is hilarious. So quirks in the old school used to be like you'd get this amazing benefit if you decided to pick one for your character, but there was always a snapback. Like there was always a catch. Like it might be, okay, you have an incredible bonus to all these things, but you're an idiot most of the time. Or, there's one where like you can be super strong, but it only works when you're drunk. Otherwise, you're weak as piss. Like all these little things where, they just add a lot of flavor and character and personality to each of the characters you create. So, I think that game is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Once my Avengers grind starts to slow down a bit, I'm 100% going to go back and play some more of that.
Yeah, it has it might draw me into it a little more than Fallout did, because I was never a huge fan of the combat system in Fallout. But
now you say Fallout, that's Fallout 3 you're talking about, right?
Well, I've keep in mind haven't played any of the Fallout games except for like a little bit of the original one that came out was it 2 platforms ago? So like with the one where it like freezes
that's not
time.
The original. Yeah, I want to be very clear about this. That's not the original Fallout. That's Fallout 3, which is completely different to Fallout 2.
Okay, so which one's the one with where it freezes time? That's 3.
Yeah, that's 3. So I mean, because up until then, have you played XCOM or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the games used to be like that. Fallout 2 used to be a turn-based. So you'd walk around the world, you'd interact with characters, you get quests. Like it was an amazing world that they'd built, and the interactions with characters, the hilarious things you could do, like bang a hooker, get herpes. Then you had to find a doctor that would basically cure radiation herpes, whatever was going on. Like all that sort of stuff you could do, which was hilarious. And the combat system was quite fun. The weapons were ridiculous. The perk system was by far the best thing about it. Mm-hmm. And then Bethesda absorbed the franchise, because it used to be made by Obsidian Studios a long time ago. Obsidian's now back with a vengeance. They've made some great RPGs over the last 12 months. They've got some more coming out. They made the Outer Worlds game that we were playing in January. Yeah. So they've tried to bring back a lot of that humor, which I love. So no, the Fallout that is nothing like what Fallout 2 was. And Fallout 2 I loved more than just about anything. Fallout 3 was a tolerable game to me. It was basically Skyrim Fallout. That's what that was.
I played the crap out of Fallout 2.
I mean, it's one of my favorite games ever. I say
it was a great game.
Which one's the newest one?
You need to play Wasteland. The newest one, Fallout
Vegas?
4, or then Fallout 76 is technically the newest one. Okay. No, Vegas was pre that for sure. Vegas is old, but Vegas was good. But I think Vegas was also Obsidian too. I think wasn't it?
I think you're right.
Fallout New Vegas. I think
was their
Obsidian
last one.
actually made that. It was, and since then it's lost a lot of that personality. So there you go. Okay. Obsidian did it.
Because I heard 76 was not, which is the newest one, I guess. I heard that one was not very good. At least on release, it was not very good at all.
So I played it at release, and I both hated it and loved it at the same time. Fallout 76, when it first came out, the whole selling point of this was that it's just after the bombs dropped, you're the first people coming out of the vaults in Appalachia. And that meant that there was no one else in that world, and any other human being that you interacted with was another human. Like it was another player. There was no NPCs. And that's when you realized how much of the personality of that universe was coming from the NPCs. Right. And by not having that, it was a very relaxing experience. Like it's kind of weird that I used to use that game to relax. Like I'd go out and wander around in this world where there was no people, and I loved it because there was no people. So it was very relaxing. I just turn my brain off and wander around. So I liked it in that point, but there was not much to do. Now they've reintroduced the Wastelanders. So now there's people back in the towns. There's settlers. They're just doing the full the Brotherhood of Steel storyline right now. There's a worldwide event that's happening. So it's a completely different game now since Wastelanders came out, since people are back in the world. And it's actually in a pretty good state now, and it's getting better and better. There are definitely like a lot of builds that are just useless at the moment, but that game is a hell of a lot better than it was on launch. Fallout 76 is getting to a point where I think the state of the game is probably better than Fallout 4 was, I think personally.
So which one, if you had to pick right now, Wasteland 3 or Fallout 76 in its current state, which one would you pick?
Well, they're completely different games, but for me to be well, it depends on what you want, because Wasteland 3 is a single player experience that you're going to play and you're going to be done. Maybe a second playthrough to make different choices, because in those games, like, choices are dramatic.
Everything.
Because the world isn't so fleshed out in 3D that if you just blow up a whole town, although they did it in Fallout 3, I guess, with Megaton. But yeah, you can do crazy stuff like that. So Wasteland 3 has a hell of a lot more personality to me than Fallout has had in a very long time. But yeah, I'm very biased because that style of game as well. But because we're talking though first person shooter versus turn-based RPG.
That system, yeah. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but no, love it, recommend it, and will definitely finish. I think that'll be my Christmas break game, I'd say. Worst case scenario. Now, the Avengers. We've been playing a hell of a lot of this game, boys.
So much.
We're all playing PS4 at the moment. I'm in the Pro. You guys are on peasant PS4s, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's it running? I've heard various reports about the base PS4 and Avengers.
So, Pike, well, I guess first, is yours, like, how old is yours? Is yours, like, from the original line whenever they first released PS4?
No, so mine is not a Pro. It's just the base PS4, but it is probably 5-6 years old.
Okay. So mine is day one PS4 still. I have it.
Right.
It hasn't died on me miraculously. That thing sounds like it's about to drop dead any day, though, because the second you start up a game, you hear that fan just go. But on this game specifically, just because I guess it's, like, I don't want to say that the graphics are, like, exceptionally good, because I don't think that they are exceptionally good, honestly. But I think that they're good graphics, but it must just be very, like, I don't know, it requires high frame rate or something. I don't really know enough about, like, the backgrounds of games, or at least, like, the designing of games to comment on it, but everything, like, the frame rate just shoots down in any kind of cutscene. It'll start stuttering. And in like high intensity combat, like, it will freeze on occasion, and because there's just so much stuff going on, especially like the like fight density, I guess, in the combat in this game is insane. You could have like 10 people on you at one time, basically. So I think for those reasons, like, this game, I'm pretty sure is going to put the nail in my PS4's coffin, if I'm going to be honest. If anything's going to kill it, it's going to be this. So that's been my experience with it so far. I heard the Pro handles it pretty well, though.
I haven't had any of those issues. Like, I've noticed some graphics, like, degradation, especially like, an example, like, a lot of times, especially in cutscenes, like, the subject's, like, face will be clear, but, like, the edges of their clothing, you'll notice that the like, it's really pixelated. But I haven't had any skipping, any stuttering, any frame drops. I haven't had any of that. Yeah,
so that might just be, like, good oldie, just hanging in there for mine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure how much of it is subjective, and or how much of it is everyone's experience. But yeah, that's my case. But I'm glad it's holding up on your end. But Pro, you said you're having a little bit of drop off too.
I mean, there's definitely some things that I think are at a base coding level. So I've got a video that I'm going to share with you boys after we finish the pod that I recorded yesterday, because I couldn't help but, like, instantly, as I saw it, where one of the Captain America costumes, like, it literally looks like his face is tearing off the base model. Like, it makes the facial animations when Mass Effect Andromeda come out feel like they were actually pretty good. Like, that's how bad it is.
Was that just his O face?
No, so it looks like, the best way to describe it, it looks like he's got a real bad Costa Stallone face. Like, the right-hand side of his mouth is, like, twisted down, like the way they used to animate the Ninja Turtles, where it looks like they've got, like, a quarter of their mouth teeth exposed, right?
Like strokey face.
Like post-Apollo fight, like post-Apollo fight.
Real messed up. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Exactly. But then after that, he had 4 strokes, right? That's kind of the best way to describe it. It's real bad. It's real bad. So that doesn't feel good. But there's not too many of those. There's just a lot of those things that I guess you kind of figured out with a game that's been in development for this long, from a studio of this caliber, that those things would have been ironed out by now.
Yes.
But I think they will over the little while. But since that last patch, I have had 3 blue screens of death, where just halfway through a game, just screen freezes, blue screen comes up, error takes about 2 minutes to resolve. Yeah, just out of
I've
nowhere.
not had any of those, thankfully.
Me either.
I think it's a pro issue. Yeah, and I have heard some people as well with the stuttering issues on the baseline PS, because we know that's struggling with this game, because it's a game that's built to kind of survive on next gen. And having played it on PC as well, this game does look sexually good when it is really tuned up to max. Like, it really does. PC's had its own launch issues as well. Like, it hasn't looked as pretty there as it could have. They've had a lot more performance issues than probably we have on the PlayStation. But this is a PS5 game. Let's be real here. That's what it's built for.
Well, so
but I have
question. I was just going to ask, because I know that this is going to be playable on PS5 and they're going to fully support it and everything. Will the graphics be like definitely noticeably better on the PS5 than it will be on the PS4? Or are we going to get the same graphics but just better, like consistent play?
Well, it depends on what they do with the frame rate capping. So, I mean, a lot of games like this, when it's built for the next gen, but they want it to look good here, sometimes they'll freeze it at like 30. But then again, you can control that a lot more than you think. I've heard a lot of people, which is what I was going to say before, have improved their performance on the PS because you can go in and change it from 4K output to like more of a HD, which may make it look a little bit less good now, but it can really improve the performance, a lot of those stuttering frame rates that you guys are seeing on the baseline PlayStations. So just tweaking the settings, you can do that. Like, you're kind of sacrificing, graphics over performance, like we have to do on PC, I guess.
Right.
But all in all, I think it's pretty good. And like you said, like, the graphics aren't that special. I will say the attention to detail on some of the suits is fantastic. Like, the way that they've done the lighting on a lot of the costumes, when like light will hit it from certain angles, you can tell where they really spent time and love, especially on some of the Iron Man costumes. Christ, some of those look amazing.
Well, that's just understanding your audience. Like, they knew that that's what was going to make or break this game, was the audience's love for those characters and the critical eye that they were going to have in looking at them.
Yeah. And then when it comes to like some of the environments, they're pretty gorgeous as well. Some of them are just very stock standard. Like, a lot of the cityscapes, I feel, are very, very standard, very forgettable. A lot of the enemies, like especially like the generic aim bots, I mean, they're very, like, some of them aren't that well resolutioned, but then the bosses, like the detail they've put on, like Abomination, for example, he looks incredible. So,
yeah, he does look good.
I think a lot of that will improve.
Sorry, I almost said something. But yeah. I agree 100% on that. Like, I don't know if this is like a thing that, well, no, I think it's I guess a problem in general with development of games in its current state. Hair is like the biggest hang up for me. Like, I feel like no one can just get hair right, and I guess it's because it just takes so many particles to be able to do and move appropriately to make it look like real hair. But everyone's hair always looks terrible, and this isn't just for this game. This is like all games. Right. So I'm hoping that hair looks better. That's such a weird thing to be hung up on.
You obviously haven't played a Hideo Kojima game. That guy is obsessed with details like that. Yeah,
well,
like
good. I'm glad he is.
Death Stranding. I think if you're all about the hair, man, you're gonna enjoy that. But the most important question is it fun? How are we enjoying it? Piker, where are you sitting at the moment? You're probably, I think you played the least of the three of us so far.
Yeah, so I think where did I leave off? My Iron Man is like level 20, power like 68. So he's starting. I was just able to sort of get into the specialty and mastery upgrade trees and sort of spec out into some more detail there. So I was able to, set him up for a lot of range damage and especially doing additional damage in the air. So I'm starting to be able to get to a point where I can tailor him to my play style, which puts that fun meter like into overdrive. Like, that's, you start enjoying it a whole lot more at that point. It's been a ton of fun. I've been loving it. I wish I had more time to play it than I've been able to, but even in the time I've done, I've been able to complete the campaign. I haven't done any of the side sort of character missions yet. And starting in on the multiplayer with you guys, it's been a ton of fun, and I'm so excited to see all of the potential places that they can still take this game. I mean, this thing is like a license to print money, in my opinion.
Yeah, it has a lot of potential, I would say.
So if you were going to treat this like a standalone RPG, like if you were someone who's not really into the multiplayer experience, if you just logged in and played let's say somewhere between 10 and 15 hours worth of campaign, Do you think it's worth it just for the storyline alone?
The storyline, while excellent, probably didn't have enough to it to sort of stack up to like an Assassin's Creed, just sort of, comparing the two in terms of campaign length. I would say it wouldn't quite have enough. Now, maybe with the side missions, once like I've had a chance to play all of them, I would have a different opinion. But from where I stand right now, it really feels like a game where the campaign missions are really an hors d'oeuvre to get you into the multiplayer experience, where it's meant to introduce you to the characters and how they function, introduce you to this world and these enemies, let you experience it, and then for you to make it your own and go ham in the multiplayer.
Yeah, and we should preface this by saying that the campaign as it is, they're referring to it as like the prologue. Like this is literally reassembling the Avengers that have scattered because of the events of A-Day. And we're not going to get spoilery here, folks, don't worry. And then bringing them back together. And then after that, there's not as much in the way of cutscenes or things like that, but there is a lot of continuation of that storyline after that's done. Like I'm still playing through that quest line now as we speak, even though I'm onto my third character now. So I enjoyed the campaign a lot, and I think especially what they were doing with, I won't spoil this too much, but with the main villain, let's say, I thought they did a great job in introducing that new villain to an audience that probably hasn't been familiar with him before. What did you think of the campaign, Hebrew?
Yeah, so there's actually a surprising amount, because I really do love this game, but there's a surprising amount of issues I have with it, actually. So,
okay.
You don't say.
Right? But
yeah, mainly their hair.
I want to, we'll start off with their hair again real quick. But no, so I think one of the main things that I have an issue with is, all right, let me start off with the good part of it first. The campaign, I expected after the beta hit, I was like, this is going to be a fun multiplayer game. I'm going to rush through the campaign as quickly as possible and just get to the multiplayer stuff. I was expecting to be a throwaway campaign. I was so wrong. I've never been so pleasantly surprised in my life. I actually really loved the story. I thought it was basically like movie worthy. And I was like surprised by the amount of depth and care that they put into, especially Kamala Khan. I thought that her character was done incredibly well. It was a real like coming of age story, like superhero coming of age story, I suppose. So I thought that was really cool. Her introduction into the Avengers and everything was just very well done. There was growth in a lot of character and depth. So I think the quality of the campaign that we did get was very, very good. But just as you guys both touched on, like there isn't a lot of it. So, and in my opinion, immediately after you're done with the main campaign, quality drops off quite a bit relative to the quality that you had with the campaign that was there. So I suppose like that's my issue. I really compare this game to Destiny in a lot of ways because it's basically like the same exact model as Destiny. So it's an easy comparison. But like Destiny in both games, I would say, had more of a story and like to start off with. And I have a feeling that with this game, we're going to see the next installments come more slowly than Destiny as well. That remains to be seen. That's just kind of up in the air. We don't have dates for anything yet, but I have a sneaky suspicion that that's going to be the case. So yeah, I'm worried about like longevity with the game in its current state, because we know things are coming. I don't know if you want to get into war table stuff now, but we do know that things are coming to kind of hold us off for the next content. But this really did feel like just the like the reassembling of the Avengers, which was cool, but it's just the story feels very incomplete as of now. Like I want more, and I feel like I deserved more for a full game like this. The multiplayer is fun, but there's a lot of issues in combat still. Like I think that it's improved since beta, but honestly, I still think dodging is a little off, even though I do think it's better than beta. And I know that that's not just me too. My feelings were validated after I went to the Reddit thread for this game as well. Everyone was complaining about that. And also the amount of missiles that can come out, like not just specifically like literally missiles, but like, any kind of, missile attack coming from anything. There's so many of them in this game, and you can have so many things on you at once. It makes it at some points almost impossible to get out of like a hit knockback phase. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some issues with the combat and far as complexity and the way that you're expected to survive that isn't necessarily great, for sure. There's definitely some things like that.
Yeah. So that's those are my main things.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on you a little bit. So if you compared the base of Destiny 1 when it came out to this has so much more content in the storyline than Destiny 1. Destiny 1 was garbage as far as like, it was probably 6 hours. Like I was able to fly through that.
No.
Destiny 2 had more. Oh, 100%. Destiny 2 had more, but I think base game, like no expansions, but base game, I think the storyline for this is longer and more complex than Destiny 2. You got to remember, they brought out content pretty quick after release. We're talking about launch. Mm-hmm. I do believe there's more in this than the campaign than there was in either of the Destinies. And the Destiny games, their storyline continuation relied a lot on the raids and the individual events to tell that story further, which they added in little bit by little bit, and then DLC after DLC. So there's a lot to do now, but when it first came out, like I had max characters way faster there than I did here. So that's one thing. So I will say that. The combat things, I think you've got it right in the sense that there are some characters that definitely do not feel as fun as others. Like I think Iron Man has the ability to literally all the melee stuff. He's just going to spend most of his time in the air. So he avoids that. That feels good. With missiles, you can fly fast, you can dodge. He feels pretty good. Hulk, man, you really need to get him upgraded because otherwise he's going to eat so much damage because there's literally half the stuff you can do nothing about. Cap feels pretty good because a lot of those missiles you're talking about, they actually work in your favor because if you do stay at range, you can reflect that. Although the timing windows of that, I will say, I wonder if there is performance issues with the game that make those windows look like they're shorter than they are. Because it's like I'm sure I nailed that block. I'm sure I did. I'm sure I nailed that dodge. Because playing the amount of hours that I have, and it's been a lot, you can start to get your eye in with certain characters, but they're not consistent. Like the way that they move, I guess, helps with like helping each character feel individualized. But what it doesn't do is make it feel good to just pivot from one character to the next because you'll know, okay, the animation says it's nearly finished, but it's not actually starting yet for that particular attack. I need to move now, not when the game makes it look like I need to. So when you get your eye in, that sort of stuff does feel better with most characters, but there are some. I think Hulk has a massive hitbox animation time issue that pulling a lot of that stuff off, he feels way less fun than the others. I think that characters like Kamala Khan plays pretty well in this regard. So yeah, some of the encounters can get ridiculous, especially later on when you get some of the modifiers for some of the endgame missions where it'll spawn like more mobs than usual. And when they're all ranged or of a certain type, it's crazy. Like there's one particular mob that without fail, if there's more than one of them, I will die because there's nothing I can do. Yeah. And what they do is basically you see a timer appealing on yourself. It's not a line of sight thing. It's not a missile that you see it coming and you can dodge. It's literally, it's going to flash yellow twice, then it's going to flash red. And if you don't dodge about let's say half a second after the red flash, because if you do it on the red flash, logically you'd think, okay, I'll dodge. But it's not quite. Like you have to do a little bit later. It just hits you out of nowhere. There's no line of sight required. It's just a really weird, dumb ability. And when you get 3 of those spawn at the same time, like you can get these real clusters. It's like old school Diablo 3 in the early days of rifts where you get certain combinations on a rift run, you go, well, this is over because the combination was just death, you know? So there is a little bit of that at the moment that I think does make some of the end game not as fun. I am worried that if you're an alt obsessed, and I say alt as in an alternate character, once you finish your main character, you move on to the next. I think there's going to be some issues because when you first finish the game, there's a lot of extra missions that reward bonus XP and gear scaling is how you progress after the level cap. So once you get to 50, to move your score higher, you need to keep getting more and more loot until you get to the soft cap of 130, and then you can upgrade your kit up to 150 currently on launch. So you need gear and need increasingly better gear to progress right now. That's what you need. And part of the problem is that when the missions, they're coming in hard and fast, right? And the mission rewards are always giving you like big jumps in gear score. to make it easier to make that progression. The problem is, by the time you get to your second, at least third character, I'd say definitely this is going to be an issue. They're all gone. So then it becomes, okay, well, how do I grind this out? There's no particular missions that I have to do. Yes, there are dailies, but there's nothing that gives me those kind of gear-based jumps. So it's literally a grind. It's like, we've got it down to an art form at the moment. Like, you boys will hear me say, all right, let's grind these two missions. Let's go vault, and then we're going to do an ISO run, then vault. So we know where you can do that farming, but that's not a fun farm, And I guess this is short term because we know from the war table yesterday, there's a lot of new content coming that perhaps will offset some of that. It won't be as big a deal. But yeah, at the moment, that I do have some concerns about this phase of the game. But when it comes to DLC, I've got suspicions that we're probably going to see a better rollout of DLC than Destiny. Because Destiny, I've played Destiny for a long time. Yeah. Destiny, you can go in and just soak up content, but it's so easy to max out to the next little thing, except for some of these dumb like weapon grind quests or things like that are deliberately designed to make it a less, progressive experience and just a real grind. But every time, it's like WoW actually. I'll come back, do everything, and then just unsub and then come back on the next, patch. I do that in Destiny as well. Like expansion comes out, I play it to death. And then like a week and a half in, I'm like, this is not fun. What am I doing? I'm going to go play something else. And then I'll just, install the next DLC, play that, do that, max a character, go, okay, I'll max the other one, max the third character, done. Okay, see you in a couple of months. So I think with this one, because we know they're aiming at releasing characters like every month or every other month, we've got Hawkeye coming now in the form of Kate Bishop. She's going to have her own storyline, which will continue the main campaign. So the fact that they referred to what we just did in that 10 to 15 hours, which again, I've played a lot of single-player RPGs that have had less hours than that, bro. Like Outer Worlds was maybe an 11-hour campaign, right, from Obsidian. I loved every second of it, but that's a standalone RPG experience. This has more hours of content than that in just the campaign. So we know that's going to expand from here, which is good.
Well, and two, we're about to get more content this weekend. And I think you made a great point, Chu, about the gear grind. And I think the answer to that, we might see this weekend with the Secret Lab and the Super Hives, because those are two pieces of content that we haven't seen yet that will only be available on the weekends that are set to drop that really rare, that really exclusive, that high-end gear. So, if you are struggling to level your alts, it could be a situation where, you need to kind of look at the weekends and kind of those additional, specialty events that drop down to, get them geared up higher.
So tell us a little bit about the War Tale yesterday and what these events are that you're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, so in the War Table, they tried to cover some new information about the game and kind of what's coming soon that they haven't talked about thus far. The first, I believe, was Outposts, which is something that we did see in the main campaign. I won't go into specifics about it, but they really kept it under wraps whenever they were previewing the game a lot. But I think there's going to be some more Outposts that are coming in the near future, and they went into that a little bit. There's going to be a lot of new content that's introduced either on an event-based, so if there's like some sort of seasonality, there'll be some content in the game that ties into it. They're going to be doing different story arcs, different times as well. But then on the weekends, you're going to have this Hive Mission, which is basically like a increasingly ascending difficulty challenge where you keep battling waves of enemies, and as you beat them, you'll go on to the next more difficult enemy, and it is meant to challenge your entire roster, like your main and all your alt characters. So if your first character dies, then it loads you back in with your next highest power character, and it keeps doing that until you've gone through all of the characters in your roster, and depending upon where you finish in that determines your resource and gear payout from that challenge. So that'll be interesting to see. I'm anxious to play that, especially with you, Chu, and the massive characters that you've unlocked with how strong they are. I feel so safe in your arms. So hopefully you can, carry us flebs through that.
I got pretty high on mine last night from when we were playing. I mean, I'm not shoe level, but I got up to like 80 something.
Nice.
In a couple hours. So it wasn't a couple, it was more than a couple hours, but yeah, in a fair amount of time, like I got up pretty high. So you'll have him mostly carrying and I'll be like your side carry. So don't worry about it.
Ooh, I like it.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll be in a good state with that. And we're going to have other people playing because obviously the global launch is going to be today. So the 4th is obviously rolling out. So we've been playing in the early access so far. Me longer than everyone else because obviously I'm the future man because in my time zone, we've had it for probably a day longer than you guys in the US. So yeah, I've certainly taken advantage of that time. So yeah, I've maxed out Thor, who, let's just face it, he is amazing. He's a really, really good character. DPS machine. Cap is pretty good. I think the taunting mechanic from him is something I'm going to mess around a lot more with, but his shield throw spec is stupid. You talk about frame rate drops. If you get a Cap that throws out like basically one of his big shields and it's just bouncing around like 8 guys, and I love the animations on Cap. Like as the shield comes back, you unlock an ability later on where then you can basically kick the shield back out again for increased damage. And yeah, if you get that combining with like a Thor ult, the amount of things happening on screen at the same time, bruh, it's crazy.
Combined with like hundreds of enemies that are stockpiling on you as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Now the unlock trees, I don't know how to feel. I love the fact that you can hot swap so much at the end. And for those of you worried about your points of like, oh, what if I put points into the wrong thing? Don't worry. There is enough points in the game you can unlock every ability. No problems at all. That's wonderful news. The downside, or not the downside, but what happens is at the end is that in your 2 right trees for your ultimates and also for your passives, those things you can hot swap on the fly. You've got 3 choices for like offense, defense, utility, whatever. You can change those out for different builds. There's no respecking points. You just basically click, okay, I'm going to go unarmed build for Thor now. I'm not going to use the hammer. So I'm going to go, I'm going to move these 8 things around. So that feels really good, but it also means that most of the second and third screens, which looks like there's so many abilities, which at first glance can go, oh wow, there's so much customization here. It's not as much as you think.
Yeah.
And that was the part that I was like, ooh, I don't know, man. And each character kind of has a really logical build. The one I really want to have a look more into is Widow, because I think she's probably one of the characters that can diversify the most between ranged versus melee. And I really want to explore that more because Thor's range is like, meh. You can do some cool stuff. Like, let me say this. The favorite thing for me that I discovered with Thor is that when you throw your hammer at sort of moderately powerful enemies, like obviously not bosses, when the hammer hits them, it pins them either to the ground or to the wall. And then unarmed, you can just beat them to death while they can't do anything, right? Because they can't lift the hammer off their chest. It's so cool, right? Yeah. I love those little flavor moments. I love the way that can completely determine builds. So as I said, you can go an unarmed spec on Thor, where he can just radiate lightning and stuff whenever he's unarmed and like passive damage around him, increase unarmed when he's fighting with his bare fists. So you could run that build and like literally wander around with the hammer literally not being in your hand most of the time. That sort of stuff feels really good. But some of the characters you feel very forced into one situation or another. And the one thing I don't love is that so much of the builds for characters like Thor, Black Widow are reliant, or even Hulk to an extent, they're reliant on you getting a lot of hits without being hit.
Right.
And that's rough because like you have to build up like second meters where you get like 17 hits in a row without taking any damage. And that's not good. Because as you guys were saying, the amount of stuff that's flying around at any given time on one screen, especially in those later missions, it's nuts. It's really crazy. So
I think at the end game, it's really going to be a matter of if you are playing in the multiplayer, the collaborative experience, kind of basing your spec not just on how you want to play, but how your friends or your mates are playing with you. I know now that I've been able to get into Iron Man a little bit more. He has a lot more range than even I thought his kit was going to have. In that there are some really strong defensive abilities that you can add on to him that don't just improve his survivability, but the whole team's. And I think a lot of characters are going to have those that you can do something with your character that, takes them to the next level, with the understanding that the only reason you're able to do that is because one of your other, companions is going to compensate for what you're sacrificing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and that's going to be a big part of it. So look, I know we're going to be talking about Avengers a lot over the next couple of weeks, because this is one of those games that's just going to be, what are you playing this week? Still playing Avengers, right? For people out there right now that are on that fence, they haven't pre-ordered it yet, they haven't bought it today, where are we at? Mike, do they buy this game?
Yes, 100% buy this game.
Piker?
100% yes, buy this game.
Yeah, me too. I think there's a hell of a lot of fun to be had with this. If you're a single-player RPG kind of person, I think the campaign is more than enough to get yourself through this. If you want to wait a little while, if it's just the single-player story you want to get through, I think that story is going to evolve. You do have to do some multiplayer, though, so maybe not the game for you. And I'd love to take a sec just to clarify one thing that this game has been getting a lot of shit for online. Mm-hmm. So the rating that we're seeing at the moment already, before release on a lot of sites, is garbage. Like, it's like 5, 6. Because very similar to Last of Us, a lot of little incels out there have got, bees in their dicks about just these things that they've not even read the full story. So this happened to me a lot on stream, that people are coming in going, oh, fuck this game, man. Fuck these greedy developers. This is so bullshit. I'm like, hey, man, tell me your story. Why are you so upset? And what's pissed off a lot of people is that last week they announced that they were doing a battle card system for all new toons. In other words, for like a battle pass, what would happen is all the characters that are launching, and I can't say this clear enough, guys, all the characters that are launching after launch are all free of charge. You don't have to pay a cent for those characters after you own the base game. However, each of the characters on launch have what we call a challenge card, which means over time you have these extra daily missions, and if you do them, you do get a few extra resources. You get like different guaranteed skins for those characters. So if you do want to spend $10 on a character when they come out, you can get guaranteed some of the cooler costumes that they have if you're willing to play that over time. To get those costumes, otherwise, you can save the in-game currency and just buy them when they're in the store on the right day, so you can get them for free. Or alternatively, when you're out in the world, certain missions drop patterns, and these patterns you put into a fabricator that gives you a random costume, and then you unlock them anyway. So if you don't care about things like costume, folks, you can play this game completely free of charge. There's this perception out there at the moment that every new character costs you $10. It's just not true. And a lot of the ratings that the game's getting at the moment is based on that, which is just dumb. And then, of course, there's the people who are not Sony, who are just like, but I want to play Spider-Mans. I can't play Spider-Mans. And you're just like, yeah, I get it. That's frustrating for you. And exclusivity deals happen, but unfortunately nothing we can do. So, yeah, I have a feeling this game's going to get review bombed pretty hard by people who have never played it.
Let me ask you a few things real quick, because a couple things popped in my head as we were talking. So first would be, how would you feel if because luckily we are on PS4, so we will get Spider-Man. How would you feel if they do like an exclusive character for each platform? Would that make it better or worse for you?
Well, I mean, I've played games where they've done that in the past. Like Soul Calibur was always the perfect example of this. Like Spawn or Darth Vader and Yoda and Link and, all those things. So it's been done before. And then, you used to pick... me too. You used to pick your console based on that. But look, if they said Wolverine was only on Xbox, bro, you best believe I'd be buying an Xbox. You know what I mean? Like...
Right.
I completely understand the frustration of people. Now, this is where I think cross-play would be amazing, because or at least cross-save. Like, let's say cross-play is not doable. Cross-save would be perfect, because, for them, I'm going to buy 3 copies of this game, right? I might buy multiple battle passes on different things. Like, I would gladly pay it twice. I already have. Let's face it, I've got PC and PS4 now. And Destiny brought it in later on. I hope they do here as well. I don't think they will, though. But I will say that, that would frustrate me a lot if they brought my favorite Marvel character of all time and I could not play it on my platform. Yeah, I'd be frustrated by it, for sure. But there's no PvP, so I guess that doesn't matter as much here. As long as a character isn't so brokenly overpowered and it's only on one console. Like, if Spidey comes out and he's God mode and, like, he's just walking through content, that's going to be frustrating for people. But I can't see them letting that happen.
Oh, and that's one of the other things on my list that I was going to mention was just that one thing that Destiny has that this doesn't is PvP, which you actually brought up yesterday, which was a good point. How would you guys even feel about having a PvP system in it? Do you think it's conducive? Because I think a PvP system in this, once more characters were out, would be really, really cool. I would love to see something like that.
I think so many balance issues though, because I mean, like, imagine being a melee ground character like Hulk, and then you've just got Piker sitting up there just going missiles, going pew pew lols, from out of range where Hulk
I actually
can't touch
say that
him.
while we're playing. I go pew 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 pew.
I know, that's why I directly quoted you in that. But yeah, that would be so frustrating. I don't think you can balance a game like this for PvP, unless you basically had like just fun little things like, it was Hulk versus Hulk. I mean, a multi-Iron Man battle would be pretty hilarious. But his ult's too powerful. Like, you'd literally have to wait until the Hulkbuster falls off before you even try and hit him. So there's a lot of little things like that make me say, I don't really want PvP for this game. This is not a game that I signed up for to be, PvP grind. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they brought out some kind of like first-person shooter side minigame where it's all you as like AIM minions trying to fight an Avengers boss, that'd be pretty sweet. I'd play the shit out of that. That'd be hilarious. But
yeah. I think there's potential to be had there, but you're right. Like, some people would definitely be at a disadvantage against flying characters specifically. Like, the flying versus ground thing is the biggest hurdle there. So yeah.
Oh,
I can never go back. Now that like I've flown with Iron Man, there is no way that I can fully embrace somebody who can't walk.
See, I'm the opposite.
So
I don't want to fly. I don't want to fly. I would rather
flying
walk.
so good. I mean, I was on Thor because I went from Thor to Cap. Like, Cap is probably the least mobile out of all of them when it comes to traversing the terrain. Right? He's got cool stuff like he can wall run, and he has like the ever classic Mario double jump, so that's fun. But like, as far as getting around the world and getting up like to it, like, there's a chest on the top of a building. Thor and Iron Man just go hold X, fly directly up, step onto building, and then leave. And Cap's like running up a staircase. And you're like, motherfuckers.
Yeah. See, I'm like the jetpack guy from like the LAX airport that we talked about at the beginning, like flipping all of you guys off while you're trying to crawl up the tree to get the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think they should have that moment from like in the original Avengers where Iron Man drops in, just grabs Hawkeye and just goes on, all right, clench up Legolas, grabs him and just shoots up to the top of the building. They should have that, where you can just grab another character and just take him up to the roof, get the chest.
I want multiplayer combos, like specials that will interact with other characters. I think that would be fantastic.
So the only time I've seen that is if you have two characters come together for their takedown combo. Like, so for example, if you have a big, like a big boss type thing, and then you have, I've seen it so far with Cap and Hulk. Cap and Thor seem to have a link up where like Cap will come in, smash the hammer, and then the animation looks different. Like, you can tell it's a team up because then he'll get out of the way, Thor will bring lightning down on it, then Cap comes back in with his shield. Like, it looks different. So Piker and you and I need to do the Iron Man one because we've seen that footage before. But we tried things like, Cap's got a great mechanic that if someone's shooting a big laser at you, you just hit the shield and you can redirect that laser at an enemy, which means you can use overpowered enemies against other overpowered enemies, which is awesome. Love that mechanic.
Yeah.
But it doesn't let me reflect Piker's Unibeam. That made my face sad.
Well, I would just really like to, like, I don't know if you guys ever played, like, way back in the day, Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Like, that was even old for me.
That's a long time ago, but yeah, kind of.
Okay, so, like, in that game, like, there was ridiculous amount of characters you could play, but each one, like, you could have special, like, ultimate interactions if you had another character close by. I would love to see something like that, like, on an actual special. So, like, if you have Cap and Thor nearby, like, if you guys, it'll put up, like, some kind of notifier of, like, about to use my ult. You guys do it together, and it would do, like, some super ult. That would be amazing. I'd love to see that. If anyone that has any pull in this game is listening to this or knows someone that has pull, you tell them that they should do that, because that would be amazing.
Well, that's why the Ultimate Alliance games were always so good, is because they were all about this. Like, you'd have, like, the Cap Iron Man one was usually in, like, mission number 1, where it'd be like, Cap would be there, you'd have Iron Man just put the beam in, and then, like, you might be playing as Cap as your main character, and then you'd literally just pivot and just spray this AoE, laser, because as it hits the shield, it becomes like 6 beams or whatever. That was always amazing fun.
I didn't realize that they had it in there. I only played like so little of that game.
Well, that's number 3. Like the first 2 did that much better, to be honest. The older games.
I wouldn't have went back to Gauntlet Dark Legacy if I knew that something more recent had that.
Yeah, Ultimate Alliance and Ultimate Alliance 2 definitely, and they were great games. Really enjoyed those. Yeah,
that mechanic should be there. Yeah.
Oh, of course it should. All right, we should probably move on because that's a hell of a lot of time on Avengers. But yeah, again, we could probably talk about it for hours, but we will be covering this game a lot. If you want to play with us too, folks, or at least people in our community, make sure you join our Discord server, discord.me/ANR. Head down to the Avengers channel because, if I'm streaming and you see that I'm not with someone, hit me up through the Discord, and generally I've just been bringing in people with me. So the boys are going to be playing a lot more soon too. We always want to be playing with our community if we can. So it's one of the benefits of not signing up. It's all free there, but just head on over there. All right, let's talk about general nerdy and pop culture news. The new James Bond trailer is up, boys. We all watched it yesterday. What are your thoughts, young Piker?
I enjoyed it. I'm always down for a Bond movie. They're one of those things that I've just always enjoyed. And anytime I'm watching a Bond movie, because I was putting a fair bit of thought into this, my evaluations are always first, what car is in the movie?
Right.
Then what does the action look like? And then who are the strong female characters, shall we say, blessing this beloved production?
Physically strong.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So those are my 3 boxes. Yes.
That she brings to the film.
Exactly. And from watching that trailer, I'm hyped. I'm really excited. I love the old vintage Aston Martin. I mean, that is just sweet. The Daniel Craig always nails the action for me. So that was on point. And they look to, I don't want to say surprisingly enough, but they look to kind of be pivoting a little bit in making more of a badass female role in this movie than I think we've seen in some of the other more recent and even, back older Bond movies.
Well, they're setting her up as, I think, the possible replacement.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I can't remember the actress's name, but I've heard that she is probably going to be, because they introduced her as the new 00, as in his teammate in this. And there's a lot of people suspecting that, James might actually die in this one. I hope it's not true. But it'd be real interesting to see if they go down that road. What did you think, Hebrew?
So I'm a big James Bond fan. I think that this looks very good. I'm excited for it. I was really upset about the last one because I feel like they brought the head of Spectre out so soon, Christoph Waltz, and then he was captured, and I don't know, his motivations were also a little meh compared to the classic leader of Spectre. Number one. Was that number 1? The classic leader?
Bro.
I don't remember if that was his number 1 henchman or if he was number 1 himself. I don't remember. Anyways. But yeah, so I had a problem with that. That was a big issue with me. So I did not like the last one, but this one looks interesting at least. I gotta say, because I heard all of that about her replacing him, I really don't like the idea of that, and it's not because I'm against a strong, female lead or anything like that. It's just I don't know why things can't have their legacy the way they are, and if they want to end 007 James Bond, fine, end it, whatever, but put him away and just start a new 00 series with her at the helm. That's fine, but just don't take his place. I don't know. I just am kind of against that. I think that she should be, if she wants to be her own thing, that she should be her own thing in her own right and not on the back of a different legacy.
Yeah, let's just make a 006 movie. I'm with you, man.
Exactly.
The whole let's repivot something or recast race or sex or whatever. Either way, from a guy to a girl or a girl to a guy. Yeah. Just recasting for the sake of ticking boxes doesn't feel good to me ever.
Yeah, I feel it's better in its own
narratively.
Too. Yeah, well, I feel
that's
it's
the thing.
Too.
Rather than announce this shit too, is why not make the movie and then just see what the response is, right? And then go, oh man, God, I love this character so much, I want a spin-off,
Yeah, what a novel concept.
Yeah, look at things like Pirates of the Caribbean. After that one came out, everyone's just shit, man, I just want a Captain Jack movie. It's what I want now, right? If the character is strong enough, if the persona is strong enough, and the spin-offs are gonna happen, people will beg you to make spin-offs of those kind. But this whole like, let's just convert it because everyone wants this. No, not necessarily. I mean, there are some things that a character's great or the acting's just so great that you're like, dude, I will never watch anything that doesn't have this actor as that person again. Like, we spoke about Iron Man before. If they try to recast that now, that's so hard. You don't recast Tony Stark. Just put in Morgan Stark. It's her daughter continuing. It's his daughter continuing the legacy.
Exactly.
That makes fucking sense, right? 100%. But don't recast and say, this is, Tony with an I, Stark, and now it's a chick. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, look, if
so
it
many
makes
legacies
sense,
have been killed because of that.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I don't think you need to call the new character James Bond or Jamelia Bond or whatever the hell they're going to do with it. I mean, just make that the new character. It's like, this is 008. That's fine.
Exactly,
Nothing wrong with that. If that's how they do it, they've got all my support. But if they're doing it just to go, all right, we've now ticked these 2 boxes based on our diversity sheets. That's the kind of stuff that I think with some fans gets them offside. But I think the trailer looks amazing. The fact that Christoph Waltz's voice is in that trailer makes me real happy. Rami Malek is in it. I mean, that dude can act. I'm so keen on seeing that. And I heard a lot of the interviews he was talking about when he was filming it. And how the chemistry between him and Daniel Craig was apparently pretty amazing. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing the villains more so in this than I am the main characters. So I'm pumped. That trailer looked really good. As you said, the old school Aston Martin Piker. It looks like they've gone the old school like machine guns in the front too.
Yeah,
so
you have to. You have to.
A sick doughy while he's just unrailing a chain gun. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
I liked it. Now, one thing we saw this week as well is that Amazon has decided to really lean into the COVID side of things. So if you are a streamer and if you have people who are your fans who have Amazon Prime, you can now get together and do watch parties with anything from Amazon Prime. So I can basically stream it out, invite on a private stream anyone that has Amazon Prime, and we can all watch TV together.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they did this because I feel like this is like a way for them to lose money, but I'm sure that they did the calculations and decided they'd come out with more money because of it. So, but to me, I would just be like, people, yeah, I just feel like for me, I'd be like, all right, everyone cancel your Amazon Primes, because we'll go ahead and just piggyback off my account. I suppose you can already do that anyways, though. So I don't know. Sure, I guess it doesn't matter. That's cool. Fine with me.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I like it. I think the ability to kind of have that extra interactions where you can have things like, let's say for our patrons, we could just basically say, okay guys, this Friday let's all get together and watch this thing on Amazon Prime. Like, I love that kind of interactivity where we can live react to something we haven't seen for a while together, or something we've never seen before. That kind of stuff in a COVID world I think is pretty rad.
You can hear me listen to shit talk Vision for Avengers 2, the entire movie.
If they have that, we should definitely do this, and then just like all watch you when we get to the Vision scenes, just like throwing up in your mouth a little bit. Yep. Now, look, I probably should have pivoted to this straight out of what we're talking about with James Bond, actually, because John Boyega, the guy who played Finn in the latest trilogy, have you seen that he's been in the news this week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, having a little bit of a bitch about, he's saying that all the non-white characters in Star Wars were sidelined for the final 2 movies, but more specifically for the last one. Mm-hmm. Now, look, he's not wrong. I mean, that last movie there was almost no Finn. It looked like everything they were setting up with his storyline was all binned. The motivation behind it, though, I mean, they were just shit characters. They were just written badly from the start. They were so cheesy. Even by Star Wars standards. Like, some Star Wars characters are just built to be super cheesy, and that's part of the love of that universe. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it was like they only sidelined the non-white characters. It's like, well, what do you do with Finn in that last one? Like, it is all about the dynamic between Kylo Ren and Rey, for me.
Yeah.
He was just a shit character. I don't think they knew what to do with him. I think they should have killed him at the end of the second one, to be honest.
I was just thinking that.
Oh, dude. I was actually really upset because I was like, oh, he's actually... I hated the second movie, but the one thing that I was like, oh, okay, like this at least feels good, is when John Boyega's character was driving towards the machine and I was like, okay, this feels right, actually. And I was like, even though I liked the character and I didn't want him to die, I was like, this feels good. And then fucking what's-her-face comes out after fucking up the entire movie anyways, and then she fucking stops him and they somehow survive. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
100%.
Yeah. And all that as
So,
well, like this whole
yeah.
like almost setting up like a love triangle type thing where like Rose loved Finn, Finn loved Ray, but like no one in that chain loved the other person in that way, right? They just in the third movie was like, nah, what are we gonna do with that? You know, there's too much shooty pew pew to do. So yeah, I don't think he's wrong, but that character was useless by the end. Both of them were.
Well, that's the thing. I think that like really the big issue here was, and like people are just gonna say I hate the second one, so I'm blaming everything on it. But I really do think like the biggest problem here. I actually really loved the first one. I thought it was great. It did have some campy stuff. It did have a lot of fan service, but I liked all that stuff. I thought it worked really well for the movie. But they set up so much stuff in the first one. Like it was already ambitious to begin with, honestly, with the different plot lines that they had set up. And then Ryan, whatever the hell his name was, came in
Johnson,
and made the second one and literally did not progress any of those plots at all. So it left not only
well, he did the opposite.
New ones.
He took every mystery box and just started smashing them to pieces. Just like, oh, who's Ray's parents? You're a peasant. Get over it. Pff, you know, like just that was his thing. Just knocking down everything that had been set up in the first one.
Right, and that's the thing. And then he started new questions as well. And so, like, you had all of these question marks. By the time that the second one was done, the story had pretty much not progressed at all, and in fact went backwards in some ways, as you said. And then there were even more question marks that were there from the first one, and nothing was answered. So then the third one, you know, JJ had to come in and try to wrap all of that up. So it was impossible in a short amount of time for a movie. So they're just basically, they were like, all right, finish line. The most important plot lines, we got to get there. All these other ones, done. They don't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. So it was like that movie screwed everything up because everything had to just race to the finish line for the most important things, which was the dynamic of Ray, basically, and who was the new bad guy, and how are we going to make him like worthy of being a bad guy again. So it was,
and that's
so
what it
many
feels like the
problems.
end of the second movie. Yeah.
And so, it was just a victim. I honestly think it was more a victim of just circumstance than anything else.
Well, and I mean, also think about how much probably shit he's taken from fans just from the fact that he was like in that movie. Like all those issues weren't even his fault. And people hate that movie. And a lot of them like blame him. Like, you made a shitty Star Wars movie. Thanks for ruining my life. Like, he's probably raging out at that a little bit as well.
Oh yeah,
well,
I can't even imagine.
There was a lot of commentary there that
Sorry. I'll be super quick so you can get to yours. I was just gonna say, honestly, I didn't realize how bad the death threat and like blaming game problem was for projects until I heard in The Last of Us 2, what's her face, the girl that voiced
Abby.
that one character. Yeah, Ellie. No, not Ellie. The other one. Abby, she got a ridiculous amount of death threats from it, more than anything that she had ever done before. And I was like, really? For a voiceover of a character from a video game? And so now I realize how bad and prevalent this issue actually is. So I'm sure his inbox is filled with death threats and stuff like that for a fucking movie. So
the worst one was definitely the last from the Star Wars second one. What's the name of that actress? The one that plays Rose? She got it the worst that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like,
she
that
really
one was
did.
She did get it.
That was terrible. Yeah. And he's right there that basically that like they wrote both of those characters badly. It's
so
not the
bad.
actor's fault that happened.
Not at all.
You know, chew out the writers and the directors for making those choices, man.
Yeah. I thought it was acted well, just bad scripts, like straight up.
Oh, horrendously bad. Yeah. So no, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is, as Trump apparently would say about things. It is what it is. My God, what a man. All right, moving right along. This is not going to mean anything to you guys because you're Mac peasants, but the new NVIDIA graphics cards are on their way. So, I mean, this is a genius move by NVIDIA and the PC Master Race, if you ask me, because everyone right now is just like, oh man, do I get the PS5? Do I get the Xbox? They're going to be able to upgrade my computer processing so much better. They're better than the average PC with the amount of teraflops and graphical performance, blah, blah, blah. And NVIDIA just goes, hold my beer. Let me just end this for everyone. I'm going to bring out the greatest graphics cards known to man. We're going to have, ridiculous specs, like the specs that are on their top end card. And it is like a $1,600 card. So let's not kid ourselves. This is for the performance obsessed wealthy people only. Like 24 gig cards, right? Which is just ridiculously powerful. So ray tracing seems to be something they're leaning into a lot with the next generation of games. These cards are probably going to do it the best in the business. So I think that, if performance power is something you are weighing up in your decision of PC versus PS5 versus Xbox, I think very shortly PC is about to dominate that again, which is always going to happen, right? Every time they do a new generation and you get this big catch up of the cards, PC will just leap forward. The question is, being DDR6 style RAM, is how many existing PCs will this be compatible with? Like, I think a lot of motherboards, you're going to have to probably look at upgrading that at the same time, which probably means, building 3/4 of a new rig to be able to compensate for this. So yeah, I'm excited about these cards, but they're ludicrously expensive. I think the mid-range choice is like $699, the top end being like $1,500. They're beautiful cards. They look really well made. They're stylish as well if you're doing an open case type system, but good God, they're pricey. So that's the one bummer about these, is that ever since we had like cryptocurrency become a thing and all this cryptocurrency mining and processing power became so goddamn important, that the pricing of graphics cards flew up and never came back down from that inflation. So, you kind of expect that as time goes by, we get cards that are smaller, more powerful, and, pricing would become more affordable. But we're seeing it go the other way. Like, these graphics cards, the size of these things now, like I had a micro ITX build when I moved to Dubai because I wanted something small and portable. But like me trying to fit that graphics card into that box is like that meme that's forever going around of 5 black dudes and that tiny petite chick, right? Trying to fit that thing in there was all about that, right? It was crazy. But you couldn't upgrade because there was no room. You couldn't run SLI or dual cards because there was just no room in there. So I love the specs on this thing, but I think they're going to price a lot of your, sort of average gamers, let's say, out of a PC, because if the pricing rumors are to be true, like that might be 3 PlayStations worth for one graphics card, let alone getting an i7 at the least, or, looking at some of these 11th gen chipsets, which are coming out now as well. That's crazy. It's just nuts. But look, performance-wise, the Master Race is definitely coming up. I cannot wait to see what some of these cards do for VR gaming on PC. But we'll have to wait and see. But exciting stuff if you're a Master Race person.
Yeah, I think that's the big. I think that's the big draw for PC, is just like they have VR at their helm that they can really go into. That consoles really just haven't done well yet. Like PSVR, after owning an Oculus Rift now and a PSVR is absolute garbage by comparison. So
for sure. I mean, I'm surprised it runs as well as it does, to be honest, the PSVR. Like, there are some games, like the Iron Man game was actually quite fun. Like, I was playing that a few weeks ago. Haven't finished it yet because, again, how many good games have come out?
Exactly, yeah.
But you're right though. Like, playing on that compared to my HTC, like, it's not even close. But certain games, like, they're built to spec it a certain way. Like, you cannot really tell the difference other than, the camera picks it up a bit better on HTC because of the base stations. Yeah. With things like Beat Saber. Like, it's really, average Joe wouldn't be able to pick the difference between those two games' performance on either of those VRs. So
minimal movement games, like, or I would say, like, not games that don't require a lot of like turning or actual like movement, like lateral movement. I would say run pretty well on both, except like a graphical difference. But but yeah, once you have to like start moving like a little bit, like I started to really notice the difference with what's that game? Super Hot.
Super Hot, yep.
Yeah. I would get lost so often on the PlayStation where my arms would just start drifting off because it wasn't able to pick it up. So but yeah, you're right. For those like straightforward games, more often than not, then it's pretty similar.
Oh, absolutely. So that's all very exciting. Going back to Star Wars for a sec, The Mandalorian Season 2 now has a release date of October 23, 2020. I'm surprised and so excited that's going to be this year. So talk about Star Wars that actually has good writing again. There's a show that I cannot wait for. Did you get into that one, Piker? Into Mandalorian?
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of, keeping my eye on it when it was coming out, not really sure what to expect. But I mean, Jon Favreau, he just knocked it out of the park. That was an awesome show. I'm so excited to see what he does with season 2. It seemed like as that wrapped up, he really had some solid ideas for where he wanted to take it and some characters and some things that he wanted to do. So give that man more seasons. I'm pumped.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like it's like that's the power of a show or a movie when you have someone at the helm that's actually like a big fan of
and a visionary.
Its source content. Yeah. So, and yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, he does an incredible job at anything he touches, really, recently, especially with, like, you know, Marvel and stuff, too. So, but yeah, like, I feel like that's the big difference. It's not just, like, a big name that's hopping on a project. It's, you know, he became a big name now, but, you know, it's because he was working on projects that he really loved and was actually interested in and already knew things about and then made them well because of it. So, yeah, I want more of that because he knocked it out of the park. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, I don't think it's too big a claim to say that he probably saved Star Wars for the next 10 years because you had like, what's her name? Kathy someone who's the head of Disney who was basically saying after Solo's really bad performance saying, oh, look, there's just not an appetite anymore for Star Wars content. Ugh. And Favreau's just going, hold my beer, mate. And then like now everyone, like this Christmas, if Baby Yoda is not like the most like sought after toy this year, I'll be shocked. I will be genuinely shocked by just a whole generation that now gets to fall in love with, you know, what I think is a very, very cool version of the Star Wars universe. So, yeah, I can't wait for more of this. The acting has been incredible. The casting has been phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of that UFC chick. What's her name? She was in Deadpool as well.
I was just trying to think of her name. I think she's out.
She's out of the show?
She's in some of the trailers. She might be out after this season, but I'm positive she's in some episodes this season.
Yeah, I think
which
rumor
I'm
is
hoping
that
that doesn't
she's
mean
out.
she dies.
Yeah.
She's been awesome in that show as well, in the 2 episodes that she was in.
I agree.
So, yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, and I cannot wait for this. Something that brings back some of the warm and fuzzies for nostalgia. It looks like they're going to have somewhere in the next month or so a reunion of the cast of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. All the surviving ones, because of course the dad, unfortunately, he passed away, I think 2 years ago, maybe last year. So did you guys, I mean, how do you feel about that, Hebrew? Because is that kind of a before your time, or did you grow up with Fresh Prince as well? Or?
I got a bit of it, but not like a lot. Like, I mean, I've seen episodes, but it wasn't like playing regularly when I was growing up. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So you weren't listening to DJ Jazzy Jeff on cassette like some of us.
Definitely not. I know like the opening song, and that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's amazing how that's the thing that's lasted multiple generations. Yeah. Because I mean, there were some great episodes of that show. So look, being that it's a after your time show, boys, let's move on to probably my favorite nerdy news of the week. The Boys season 2 is out today, motherfuckers.
Yeah. I am excited to say the very least. I can't wait to binge the hell out of this thing.
Bruh. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to do the same. How I'm going to squeeze that in with Avengers, I don't know. I think if I've ever needed a case for a second monitor more on my life, now is the day. Man,
this deserves your full attention, though. Like, I can't do anything else while I'm watching.
I agree. Well, except masturbate because of how good that fucking show is.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm masturbating to the material, though, so that's different.
100%. Yeah. Like, I cannot wait for this, man. Like, it's amazing that a show that was not even on my radar last year just completely, like, captured my attention in a way that I haven't had for a long time. It was kind of like, you know, The Watchmen on steroids. Like, I just love so much of this concept, and we're now seeing it influence other parts of pop culture. Like, tell me that Suicide Squad game isn't because of The Boys, like where they're making the main characters evil versions of themselves, like who are supposed to be the good guys. Like, tell me that we're not going to see more games where the supposed good guys of the world become the bad because of how they've done this. Yeah. And it's you ragtag bunch of dudes versus superheroes. I fucking love the concept so much.
It's a realistic depiction, honestly.
Dude, everything about this was incredible. And like that dark sense of humor they have, like it's so my wheelhouse, it's not funny. Like I was laughing hysterically, and like my wife would look at me after watching what just happened going, you are fucked up. Like, honestly, there is something wrong with you. Because like it was just so funny with the way they did some of those. I've seen some of the trailers, like the thing with the whale coming up in this season. Oh man, it looks like it's gonna be hilarious, as well as I'm sure horrifying in equal measure. So
Okay.
If you haven't seen season 1 of The Boys and you're a nerd or a superhero fan, do yourself a favor. But Parker, did you binge the first season or did you space it out?
No, so I binged the first season. I loved it so much I watched it twice. I thought that first season was just fantastic. Now, here's a little bit, I don't know. I'm not super excited about season 2. And here's the reason why. I know. There's
Let's take another podcast alone next week because you fucked it both fired after your performance today. Yeah.
My problem is, so there's two things. First is the first season was so good. I almost don't want to watch season 2 from fear that it's not going to live up to how good season 1 was.
That is like saying after having sex with the most beautiful woman on the planet and it was incredible going, I don't think I want to do it again just in case it's bad. Fuck that. Yep.
I have to see the progression. I have to.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Even if it's 60% as good as season 1, bro.
Still better than like 90% of everything else on TV.
Oh man, so true.
And point 2 was how quickly it came out. My concern is that they rushed it out because of how well season 1 did, for sacrificing the writing or the story or the filming or something, that because it came out so quickly, that there's they've done a disservice to the show itself.
Let me put your mind at ease there.
Quick?
They were so convinced before the show even aired that this was going to be a phenomenon. Like it tested off the charts or something. I don't know. They were already filming this like within weeks of the new one being out. It was re-picked up so early. Even before this season has had a single episode aired, it's already been renewed for season 3 like a month and a half ago. Like, they have confidence in this, and they should. Like, they've got an amazing cast of actors. The writing is just on point. And like great directing choices as well. So, I mean, I think they're invested in this and they're building their own universe. If they make a video game based on The Boys, they can have all my monies. They can have all my monies.
Just going to see Chew there throwing money at the TV screen.
Yeah, 100%. And then that'll be my OnlyFans, just me jerking it to that game.
Swearing.
Bro. Yeah, so good. So I wouldn't be concerned about that, mate, because there are some projects where now, I mean, think of Mandalorian, right? That in the same time, that's come out very quick by a lot of standards as well after that first season. So again, it's because of the popularity, the enthusiasm the community has. I think they're just investing in, just great projects. So I'm not worried about that. It's going to be good. Now, I do have bad news for you, Hebrew.
Oh boy.
So I'm the captain of the binge when it comes to video games when they launch. Like I am the beta binger. Yeah. You are a binger when it comes to like TV shows like this. Like you will do, dusk till dawn with these things.
Yeah, definitely.
Today, there is only 3 episodes available.
Oh no!
So they're doing the first 3 all up, and then they're going to have 1 episode weekly for 5 weeks for a total of 8 episodes.
God.
So I guess we've got a choice to make. Are we going to watch it as it comes out? Or are we going to wait 8 weeks and try and avoid the internet, which good luck, and binge in one day?
I couldn't wait if I wanted to. Like it just wouldn't happen. Like,
it's going to be good. Yeah, I think just for the spoiler nature of the internet in 2020, because there's so little to do other than, play video games and watch stuff online.
Yeah.
That I think that you kind of have to, or be prepared to have things ruined for you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was supposed to wait for when Umbrella Academy season 2 came out. I was supposed to wait for my girlfriend to watch that one too, and I ate it in a day. I was fucking done. I had to watch it. So it's
now I'm only 2 episodes in because our life's kind of taken me away from the TV a little bit. How did that finish up? Was it good?
Are you in season 1 or season 2? No spoilers.
Season 2. Season 1 I loved.
Okay. Season 2 is better than season 1, but there are still frustrating things. But it's unanimously agreed better than season 1 for sure.
That makes me happy. If it's better than season 1, I mean that's a high bar. That's a real high bar.
Yeah,
so
there's still one particular character that can get very frustrating at sometimes. That's about it.
Oh, I don't think you need to say much more. I think I know who that's going to be.
Yep.
All right. Very good. All right, gaming news, folks. So big one this week. We've just seen such a streak of major games being banned around the place. So obviously, Fortnite was last week's news, but now PUBG has been completely banned from the country of India, which is a really big deal because I know a lot of my team here and a lot of their friends of Indian descent, they love PUBG. Like these guys, any spare time they've got, like we'll finish a meeting, go out for lunch. These dudes are playing PUBG while we're at Pizza Hut. Do you know what I mean? Like they love this game. And to ban it from a potential, what is it now, like 1.1 billion people market is crazy. And this is obviously further retaliation to the escalating tensions between India and China. They've banned a lot of different Chinese products and different things in the last week. But that's a big deal. Like to potentially just have a video game removed because of politics, and we've now seen this twice in a week, is getting crazy. And the Fortnite stuff escalated too. I don't know if you saw this. The dev kit for Epic has been pulled completely from the App Store. So none of the Epic stuff can be installed on an Apple phone from the App Store from now on out, which is just crazy.
Wait, they did that?
They did, yeah. They banned it this week. It's pretty nuts.
Shit. That's crazy.
It's a big deal.
Wow.
It's a big deal. So we don't know how long this stash is going to go. We don't know what it's going to take from Epic now, because it sounds like the ball's in their court. Like, are they willing to literally have them locked out of probably the biggest install base of any, mobile phone platform, or let's say any gaming platform, if you look at it that way, to have Fortnite not accessible to all those kids who, parents don't want to buy them a console or a PC, but they do have a mobile phone that they'll let them have to shut them up a couple hours a day. That's a big deal. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if Epic folds on this one, because losing 30% margin to a company is painful, especially with the operating costs. And giving Apple 30% for nothing, realistically, other than hosting on a platform, feels bad. But to lose that other 70% as well because you just booted off the platform, how long till they fold like a house of cards? Because it's a bad business decision.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, both are being hit, but it's literally a stalemate of like who's willing to survive with less money more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a weird situation, but I will say, like, banning like the development tools, like any game made with the development tools, that's huge, way bigger of a market than people realize. So I am very surprised that they did that. I actually thought that would be Epic's like queen move right there. Would just be like, all right, look, if you're gonna do that, we'll take the dev tools away. And then I thought that Apple would fold, but I guess not. That was
no. So the question is now is like, I mean, I think there's a hell of an opportunity here. Like if you had someone like any of the Android developers reach out to Epic and just say, look, come to us, come exclusive to us. Like Fortnite is a game that realistically, like, we've all bought a PS5, or we're going to, because of the exclusive titles, right?
Yeah.
If you're a teenager that's growing up at the moment, or let's say you're like a 12 and you're coming up on that age where your parents are going to allow you to buy your own phone for the first time, and they say you can have any phone you want there, little Jimmy. Which one do you want? I want the one that's going to play fucking Fortnite. Of course they are, right? Because, if they lean into that, if they really do, it'd be amazing if they could cause a generational shift from kids away from Apple. Because a lot of us have been ingrained with it because, like, for a long time, we all had, iTunes. Like, well, all my songs are there.
Yeah.
All my movies are there. Like, everything I had is there, right? And that's what keeps a lot of us on Apple. It's like, well, that's where all my shit lives. But these kids coming up now, like, they don't have that brand loyalty. And now we're on streaming services like Spotify. That kind of thing is coming to an end. And everything's available on multi-platform. But if you are now the phone company like HTC that comes with a preloaded bonus features, you've got free, Fortnite bucks or whatever the hell they call their currency included if you buy that phone to play Fortnite on, tell me they're not going to make some bank.
Yeah. No, I fully agree, 100%. It's a weird situation.
If there was a company that could pull it off, I think it would be Epic.
Yeah, they do have so much weight to throw around, like, but I mean, at the same time, like, I mean, gaming is always bigger on Android. Like, Android has the biggest gaming market, like, well over Apple. So, like, if they did an exclusive deal with Epic, like, then it would be Dunskies, and I bet Apple would be like, oh shit, we shouldn't have done that. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what happens. Like I said, I thought the dev tools would be just the trump card of Epic, but I can't believe that Apple is going this far. Surprising.
I know, it's pretty crazy. Now, earlier this month, my wife said, look, what do you want for Father's Day? And I said, look, there's not really much I want at the moment. If anything, and I'm happy to pay for some of this myself, if anything, I think with Squadrons coming up, I think I'd really love a new flight stick. And she's like, okay, which one do you want? I said, okay, these two. And I gave it the name of a Logitech and a Thrustmaster one. And up until recently, like I'd seen them in every store, like in every Virgin Mega store, in every Geekay, which is a gaming branch here. Like they were just everywhere. I was like, okay, if she wants to get me that, then perfect. They're out everywhere. She came home. She's been to 4 malls and said, I can't find them. I'm like, what? I said, okay, no, I'll check it out. Like I can't find a single flight stick in Dubai. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Flight Simulator. Flight Simulator has been so popular in the first week of launch in ways that we haven't seen. I think there's 2 things building to this. Number one, you can fly, which in 2020, who knew that was going to be such a novelty?
Yeah.
And number 2 is that it's on the Game Pass. I think if anything has shown the strength of the Game Pass by putting out a free title on PC if you have that subscription. We don't have to pay $1 to get a game that most people are like, bro, am I really going to have like 150 gig and spend $80 on a flight simulator? Please. But when it's free and you can just kind of have a dabble and mess around, people are doing just that. Like people, the first thing they did is, all right, I'm going to get in the plane, I'm going to find my mate's house, and I'm going to fly a plane into it, right? That was the first thing people were doing online. Then the next thing, of course, they were doing is try and simulating, let's say, an event in September that you probably shouldn't be doing in a video game, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In like day one, people were streaming that kind of stuff, right?
That's terrible. Okay, yeah.
That is.
But at the same time, you know, you would do that. You know what I mean? Like you try and create. So what they've actually done is they've removed the animation. They've removed the animations in that game so that you cannot see a plane fly into a skyscraper. It just basically will cut away and say you crashed, right? It won't show it. Like, so they obviously predicted that people are pieces of shit. And the first thing they would do is try and fly 747 into a building.
That is funny.
It's amazing how much fun people are having with a game that realistically is supposed to be the most boring thing ever. And listening, like there's these custom services. I love this world that I've discovered this week. I'm not going to play it, but I love the idea of it. There are people who are making money right now on like Patreons and stuff like that, where what they do is they'll provide for people playing this game. They will act out, and very professionally, because it sounds like they used to be or they are these things, flight tower controllers. So they'll have that conversation of, you know, President Flight 747, you are clear for landing. You know, they'll have that chat about heading or, you know, change, you've got this. And people are paying money because they want that authentic experience of being able to, you know, interact with someone and fly properly. And it's an incredible thing of how into this game people have gotten. And it's barely a game. Like, it's literally a simulator.
That's so crazy to me. That's weird.
I know.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Does it have a jetpack?
Huh.
Well, I mean, that must be the next expansion after today. I mean,
DLC all the way.
Well, there is like different
Jetpack
versions
boy.
of this game you can get where there are like premium planes you can buy. And then what they've done is like in the base version, you kind of have the world as it is. And apparently it's very geographically accurate for most places. But what they'll do is with like some famous landmarks, they might have it like, you know, they'll put a warehouse there instead. Like apparently they did that for Buckingham Palace. But in the the higher versions, they'll do things like where like airports will be like fully high res if you get like the upgraded version and better graphics and things like that. So yeah, I'm surprised that one of the biggest games as far as people have put hours to since we did the last podcast has been Flight Simulator 2020. I'm blown away.
I would
by
not
this.
have guessed. Would not have guessed.
Definitely not.
But yeah, subsequently, it's led to a massive sellout of fucking flight sticks because I cannot get my hands on one right now. So what
were you getting it for?
Squadrons, the Star Wars game coming out next
right.
month. I wanted to have that here, ready to go, set up, controller mapped, ready to rock, so I can throw the VR headset on and do the pew pews in an X-wing. So,
Right.
yeah, man. So yeah, that's one of the authentic experience this time around. So yeah. I was watching a trailer yesterday for Scavengers. We briefly saw this at Gamescom a little while ago. A new trailer came out a couple of days back. Have you guys watched this trailer?
For Scavengers? No,
Yeah.
I have not, actually.
Did you watch it, Parker?
No, I didn't. I missed this somehow.
The
Yeah,
homework
same.
of these kids, I tell you. So look, this game looks interesting. That it's got a survivory kind of feel, but it's more so. If I had to describe the way the trailer makes the gameplay look, It's like if they did For Honor. Do you guys remember that Ubisoft game, which like Vikings and Samurais? Well? So it has that kind of look, if you will, in regards to like close quarters combat for the melee characters, and all the way the platforms look on some of the arenas and whatnot. So it looks like if For Honor was kind of blended with Borderlands 3 and PlanetSide. Like it has a very unique look that hits a lot of familiar vibes as well. I'm curious to see what that game becomes. The trailer makes it seem like a bit of fun. It sounds like they might lean into a little bit of that Borderlands 3 cheesy / dark humor. What it becomes in the end, I don't know. But I'm interested to see where this goes. I really am. So there's some funky things they're trying to do with the combat systems there, trying to mix like an arena shooter with some survival elements. How that pans out or whether people want that crossover, I don't know. But I guess we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, like I'm honestly not surprised that a game is trying to rip off a little bit of the Borderlands feel, because like really no one has done too much of that. Surprisingly, considering it is such a successful game, I would love to see more games like that. So I think I will have to go ahead and give this one a look-see.
Yeah, check out the trailer, because they've got the gameplay trailer out now, which will show you a little bit more about the combat. I mean, it looks clean, it looks slick, it's really gorgeous looking sort of game. Now, whether that translates into actual play, I don't know. But I think we're going to start seeing more of this, is that next gen. Like, we're going to see most trailers now. You're like, wow, that game looks amazing. And that's probably like just an average base version of, whatever the PS5 generation is going to look like. So I think we're in that window now. I tried pre-ordering my PS5 this week too, boys. And it's not available here yet. It seems like it's just a US thing, which is weird, because it's due out
in November. Are you talking about the pre-order of the pre-order, or the...
Yeah, the pre-order of the pre-order. It looks like it's only for you guys at this stage. We still can't do pre-orders of PS5 here.
Yeah, I put mine in last week, so hopefully I can ascend.
Nice.
PlayStation will allow me to ascend.
You can ascend playing exactly the same game you are now on a new console.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only game I'll have.
Now, after last week, because we were recording on day one of Gamescom, had a bit of a look through. Most of the things that they were showing there was just newer trailers and newer versions of things that we've been keeping tabs on anyway. Nothing really game-changing outside of what we talked about last week. It seems like there's a lot of publishers that have some big announcements over the next month, though, or next 2 months. So we're seeing a lot of those bigger companies are going to have their own events. You talked about Gearbox before with Borderlands 3. They're announcing a big announcement there as well. These companies announcing announcements now is like the theme of 2020. Yeah. And normally that press conference is, we're delaying things. Like that, if we've learned anything, is that everything is delayed forever. So nothing really much to cover there. Did you check out any new mobile games this week, Hebrew?
Yeah, just a few like quick announcements more than anything else. Just for anyone that's interested in trying out some new stuff. So, A Lord of Heroes by Clover Games. It is a South Korean game. Currently, you can get over there and hop into the beta, I guess you could say, for Global. Global's right around the corner. So, if you want to get ahead of the game, then you can go ahead and do that. You cannot play it on an emulator. So, prepare yourself for that. Obviously, we've seen a couple of those games recently that won't allow that for whatever reason, but they've come out very strongly and said you cannot play it on an emulator. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know why developers are so against that. Is there some kind of exploit other than, I guess, maybe it's better controls, slightly better controls?
There's two things. Is there anything that involves PvP is normally the first ones that they look at this, because in BlueStacks, I mean, we've seen this in a lot of games, you can set up auto scripts. So when you can set up an auto script with like movement-based things, you can program if the game does X, you do Y. It can give you a competitive edge that literally is cheating, and we're seeing more and more cheating happening and things like that, So some of those emulator games, I completely agree with that idea of that. Well, that, and I guess, companies want to sell phones, and companies want to get install bases on phones too. So with some games, I fully think.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this one is a very good game. It plays very much like Marvel Strikeforce, if you're a fan of that, or Galaxy of Heroes. So you can give that one a try. It's very kind of anime-esque. Lots of waifus in there. So if you're a fan of that, or husbandos, as the opposite sex is called. So yeah, give that one a shot. It's a lot of fun. Lord of Heroes. Global is going to be coming next month, I believe. So check that one out. Another one is Murderous Pursuit by NetEase. So this is like a really cool game. Just came out global. It's very like Assassin's Creed with the aesthetic of like BioShock, like Victorian era. It's really, really interesting. The gameplay is really fun. It seems a little like at first glance, it probably seems a little clunky. Like whenever you get to the page and if you want to watch the video or something like that, you might be like, I'm not sure. Whenever it comes to actual gameplay, because the graphics are actually pretty good. But it's actually a lot of fun. Give it a shot because it's really cool. It's a different type of game from the games that we've been seeing. It's a good departure. And second to last one is going to be Genshin Impact by MyHoYo. This is obviously a Chinese company.
Do they also make
was actually featured. They might also have a hand in Himium, apparently. But they were actually featured at Gamescom, which is good for a mobile game. That should tell you something right there. It has amazing graphics. It's going to be coming out on September 28th. It's an RPG style game. It is really, really cool. You can have multiplayer in it. You can team up with your buddies. It's supposed to have an amazing campaign, so definitely give that a shot. I cannot stress how gorgeous this game looks for a mobile game, so definitely check it out. Just sign up for it. It's obviously free. Like I don't play really any like paid games for mobile. I just don't think it's worth it. That might not be true, actually. It might be even more worth it to get those, but either way, I don't play them, so I did go the free route. But yeah, so check out that one, Genshin Impact. September 28th is when it comes out. Last one, this is a little like minor group discussion. Diablo Immortal is rumored to apparently be coming out at the end of September. So really? I have a feeling that is not going to. It's from an uncredited source that claims to be part of the dev team. It's like a leak from part of the dev team. Right. I have a feeling that that's not the case because from other dev members, we've been told that they are going to have a beta before it comes out, and I can't imagine having a beta that only lasts like 2-3 weeks with a game like Diablo Immortal. So that's probably untrue, but just keep your eyes and your ears open. But at this point, what do you guys think about Diablo Immortal coming out? Like, are you at this point just so uninterested because it's been so long, so delayed, and we already have some problems surrounding Blizzard anyways? So what's your thoughts on it? I mean, we all have phones, so
cheeky.
Do we have phones?
At least I hope so.
Look, I mean, I'm a Diablo fanboy since the original Diablo 1, right? I mean, I love that series and everything about it. But the reality is Blizzard didn't make this game. So that's assume that everything's going to be the same thing that we've loved and assuming that they're not going to fall into the pitfalls of mobile, this to me feels like a massive experiment from Blizzard, where they're getting the push because of the new ownership and then some of that ownership also pivoting into Chinese investment who are all about this mobile money. I am worried it's going to be a microtransactional mess. I really am. Now, I'd love to be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But I do worry that the finished product on this is going to be garbage. For which case, now that I know a Diablo 4 exists and what they've been setting up with those trailers that they announced earlier this year, I'll play it when it comes out. And if it feels like what they've sort of marketed, which is like sort of Diablo 2.5, I'm on board. Like if it's like just a regen Diablo 2 with modern mechanics and it looks good and plays good on phone, great. But this particular company, it has a history that they've contracted to of just taking a game that they made a core for a very long time ago and then continuously reskinning that same game over and over and over again for more monies. So if they've just taken that base skin and with some early footage we saw from one of the big events, I think it might have been BlizzCon where they did the announcement that year, that's how it looked. And if it hasn't gone through evolution since then, I'll be worried and probably not too keen on playing too much of it. Especially because, it sounds like the main argument between the company that made it and Blizzard has been about what level of microtransactions go into it. That's been kind of like behind the scenes, unconfirmed talk that the main argument they're having is there is a big element for this and there's a big element saying, well, this project is so mired in controversy because we've already pissed off a massive chunk of the people that supported the Diablo games for so long. And now if we're going to sit there and like change the script and make it all microtransactional gambling bullshit, we're just going to piss people off too much. And I think that that's something they're trying to resolve. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. What about you, Pike? Are you going to play it?
You know what? I've never played any of the Diablo games.
Wow.
I know.
Really?
I haven't.
Wow. That's like D2 LOD is like, well, to date, I guess like my second favorite game of all time, maybe even first game of all time, first favorite game of all time. That's how good that game is. You like, I feel bad for you that you haven't played it, honestly.
Yeah.
No, that's so. Are you planning on like when this game's out? Are you going to dip your toes in?
I don't know. I'd probably listen to you and see if it's any good first. To be honest with you, if it's I'm not opposed to taking a look at it. It's also tough. Like there's so many games right now. Like everything is competing for your attention. It's like really difficult to, think about having the capacity for another game.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, especially since MSF will be still taking up like
Sucking
60% of your time.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Yeah, for me, like the microtransactions, I actually don't think, like I know that is like an issue that's being had, but I honestly don't think that there's going to be that much of an issue with them when it's all said and done. I think that there's too much to lose if they do go that route. And it's pretty like well known now how bad things can get if you're really microtransaction heavy. Granted, we are on mobile and that is a thing there. But for big companies like this, I can't imagine them delving into that too much. Otherwise, I think they'll just get too much flack for it. And then they're going to end up having to like basically like I guess destroy the game before it even starts. Which may be I don't even know what's going to come out sooner anymore. Diablo 4 or Diablo Immortal at this point. It's crazy how quiet they're being on the Diablo Immortal front. But, yeah. So it is what it is, but that just keep your eyes open for it. We'll see what happens. It's been on the pre-order screen forever for both Android and Apple. But, there might be a tiny glimmer for the end of this month, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll be super surprised if it comes out September.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Blizzard. I mean, they hype things for like 6 years usually. So, yeah. I mean, to then just go, okay, game's out now. I mean, that would be real surprising. Especially seeing the beta cycle of so many games being so long. For that one to be so short, like you said, I just don't see it.
Yeah, and like I said, that guy who was on the dev team straight up did say that there was going to be a beta before. So I agree. Like, I think that this is going to be a no-go for this weekend, but had to mention it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Piker, anything else on your radar at the moment?
No, sir. It's a lot of Avengers and Tony Hawk and all the time, and I'm loving it.
For sure. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about what's coming out in the next week or so. So the Outer Worlds expansion, or DLC, is coming out called Peril on Gorgon. I love this game. I think it was Obsidian coming back to relatively full strength. I think they're, really trying to make their own, not Fallout universe, but it's a very similar kind of feel. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what they put out already. This looks like kind of a film noir detective kind of storyline that they're putting in. I've seen a couple of the first hours of gameplay. It just looks and feels really good. So I'm going to pick that up at some point for sure. The base game is still available up on the Game Pass at the moment. So if you haven't played it and you've got Game Pass, make sure you get onto that. Did you guys ever play Spelunky, the original Spelunky series?
No, I have no idea what that is.
No, me either.
It was a ridiculously popular game, predominantly on Steam when it first came out. This time around, it's going to be on the PS4 as well for Spelunky 2. So very sort of old school, low res, reasonably good looking, I should say, much better than the old versions. Like old school platformer. So it's like Mario on steroids. So it's like ladder climbing and flamethrowers and all that sort of stuff. Really good vibe, really fun sort of feel. So Spelunky was a great little game. And now it's coming out on PS4 and PC with a sequel. So I think if you're into old school platformers, you're going to have a lot of fun with that one. And then Star Renegades, I was talking to you about, is also coming out this week. Hebrew has a very anime sort of flavor. And I think that's a game that feels like It has like almost Street Fighter 2 throwback kind of graphics. It looks like a JRPG combat system, but the world has a kind of a look to it that's very, not Animal Crossing if it was like on a old school Game Boy, but it's probably the best way to describe it. With the aesthetic. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that does. But yeah, I'm curious to see what's happening.
Chibi kind of anime characters, or are they like full-size regular anime characters?
Tough to say. I mean, it looks more kind of chibi-ish, I suppose. But no, yeah,
Okay.
it's interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to give it a look-see.
That's it. All right. And that is pretty much it for this week's episode. So thank you very much to Hebrew.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Thank you very much to Piker.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, and as I said, if you have enjoyed this, folks, make sure you share it with your friends. Make sure you go and leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you, if you want to, of course, head on over and check out our Patreon page. And if you think we are worth some of your hard-earned dollars, on patreon.com/ANRpod, you can help us out over there as well. But otherwise, we will see you all next week. Cheers.